Well, hello there. Welcome back to another episode of DCU Daily. But we're going to kick things off today a little bit differently. As you can see, the graphic looks a little bit different. Because, at the top of the show today, we're going to talk about a little bit of the news that's going on in the world. It's going to include some DC, but then we're going to dive into DCU Daily right after that. So, if you're here watching us live, believe me, that is what the show is about today. But to kick things off, of course, my name is Dan. If you haven't seen me before and you're watching for the first time. Today on the news, we have to talk about so many different things. There's a lot going on. We've got Will Smith potentially coming over to the Matrix franchise, full circle moment. Is Robotnik going to return for Sonic 4? Jim Carrey seems to be into the idea. And of course, Andrew Garfield, once again, saying that he's not involved in the next Spider-Man movie, but he also knows that nobody will believe what he says after how he tried to deceive us with the previous movie. So with that in mind, John, how are you doing today? Are you excited about all these various news stories? A little, potluck, if you will.
Changing it up. We got to keep the audience on their toes, my guy.
Exactly.
So, you got to let's
Mm-hmm.
go.
Let's go. Let's go. Well, with that in mind, let's dive straight into the news, shall we? So, the first piece of news that we gotta quickly discuss is, of course, Will Smith today released this mysterious video message. It's sort of teasing the idea that he might be joining up with like a new Matrix, reboot potentially. And it's a little meta. I think he's trying to do a little bit of what Jason Momoa did. He kind of posted something, chronicling his past relationship with the role of Lobo, and then said, "Well, they called," and Will Smith is like, "Wake up, Will! The Matrix has you." Um, for those of us who are unaware of the history behind this whole what shall we call it? This whole ordeal story, the history of Will Smith behind the scenes. The history of Will Smith and Matrix goes way, way back, John. Do you want to give us a quick history lesson?
Typing on the screen.
Yeah. It's because as you see there on the screen, he was originally offered the role by the Wachowski for Neo in the original Matrix in 1997. He turned it down for what was it, Wild Wild West?
Wild Wild West, because he just didn't feel like it was good for him. He didn't really get the script, all that. So chose Wild Wild West instead. John Peters got his giant spider fetish finally actualized in that movie after he tried to get a giant spider in the Superman Lives movie that never happened. So John Peter got his, jerking off to a fucking giant spider because he really wanted a giant spider on the big screen. I don't get it. John Peters is fucking weird. But
yeah,
that's beside the point. So yeah, so that was like kind of, I think ironically, Will Smith was also considered for Superman. I think for Superman Flyby, they were like, "Oh, let's change it up," and he's like, "Fuck no, I'm not dealing with that controversy." So yeah, essentially he was offered, he said no, and then they went. I don't know if Keanu was the next choice or they had a bunch of other choices. I know Sean Connery was considered for Morpheus.
That would have been a very different movie. Can you imagine that timeline?
He turned it down because he didn't understand the script. This happened for like 3 different
so many
movies.
Things. And he did like the League of what was it called?
So he turned down Lord of the Rings because he didn't understand the script. He turned down The Matrix because he didn't understand the script. He got League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. He didn't understand the script, but since the last 2 were hits, he's like, okay, might as well do it. And then the movie tanked so badly, he fucking retired from acting permanently until he died. So, it would have been I know Val Kilmer was also considered for Morpheus if they got a black lead for Neo.
Mm-hmm.
So it was in terms of they couldn't have 2 black guys as the main roles because God fucking forbid. So they had to have a white guy and a black guy. If they had a black guy for Neo, who if Will Smith accepted, they would have had a white guy for Morpheus, either Sean Connery or Val Kilmer. And then, but due to the fact they got Keanu, they had Lawrence Fishburne as Morpheus. So that it all worked out. We got a classic. We got, all this stuff. But it's an interesting how they're like, maybe not as Neo, but maybe you can come back as somebody else. Maybe kind of what Yahya Abdul-Mateen II was in Resurrections, where he was like an agent / new Morpheus. So like maybe he'll be like a new Morpheus type of thing, or they'll just make a new character and not just reuse the one black character in those movies over and over and over again. But it's an interesting idea, like everything coming full circle. Like, okay, that's kind of cool. Like, all right, Will Smith, after you're done slapping Chris Rock and being a cuck, why don't you come over to our franchise and, you know,
I mean, he's coming
have
off
fun
Bad
with us?
Boys 4. I feel like his career is recovering. So to me, this is actually a bigger news potentially than we are maybe making it out to be, honestly,
Yeah.
because I'm like, if they announce tomorrow, if tomorrow they announce that Will Smith is going to star as Neo in a new Matrix reboot, one, I think he's too old to be Neo
That would be
at this
really dumb.
point. But B, I mean, if they were to go ahead with it anyway in some whatever iteration, there would be excitement because it's still Will frickin' Smith, so I get it.
Let's get jiggy with it, my guys.
But then there would be a lot of people saying, but wait, Keanu Reeves, like hashtag Keanu Reeves is our Neo. Like that would be.
I don't think they would do a reboot, but I don't know how the fuck they're gonna continue after Resurrections, especially when Resurrections was fucking horrid from what I heard.
Remember the news intro that we usually do?
Yes. How can I? That shit's ingrained in my brain.
in a version of, I don't know if it's the current version or the previous version. We didn't use it today, but in one of those versions of the news intro, I remember specifically having Catriona add in the news when it came out. I think it's almost a year ago now, where we got the headline saying, "Oh, Warner Brothers is actually going back into the Matrix for another movie after Resurrections did as poorly as it did," even though I thought it was a good film. And I think they were looking at potentially having one of the Wachowskis produce, but maybe bringing in a new director. It was essentially going to be either a continuation of the franchise or like a spin-off or maybe some sort of a soft reboot without necessarily going back and like redoing the first three movies. I think if Will Smith is posting about this, then maybe, just maybe, like that's the pitch, right? You go in a new direction with the Matrix franchise. You don't necessarily go and do like, what they've been doing at Disney with the live action remakes where you're doing a shot for shot remake of the original. But instead you say, okay, this is the Matrix, but this is a new continuity. This is somehow connected, and yet it is not. It's its own thing. And here we are, Will Smith, and maybe an older Will Smith, as he is today, somehow is the character that needs to escape the Matrix, and he's the chosen one. Or maybe they go in a different direction entirely. Maybe he's not the chosen one. Maybe he has a different role. I personally would be interested in seeing that because to me it sounds.
I mean, it could be like a Matrix related project. They might be doing like a spin-off or something with him. Maybe they'll do like a, the multiverse is big now. Maybe they'll do like a multiversal thing where it's like Neos across the multiverse. Hashtag Neo multiverse of madness. I don't know. I could see them doing that.
I could see it. I could see it.
It would be fucking stupid, but I could see them doing it.
I could see it. Now, of course, that's not the only big piece of news today. I have to tell you about, still Justice for Batman. We're gonna get into that later in DCU Daily, but of course, the big event of the weekend was the Golden Globes. It's the first awards, of the big award season. It's kicked off now, and they happen in January, and they do that in January because then it just sort of like goes all, gets the snowball rolling down the hill all the way up to the Oscars. Now, of course, a TV show is not what's going to get the awards at the Oscars, but you have the Emmys, coming up later in the year as well. So the Golden Globes is uniquely positioned where they give out awards for movies and TV shows. Of course, DC, didn't have a huge presence at the box office last year because Joker Folie à Deux flopped, and they didn't really have much of anything else going on. But they will have a big presence this year with Superman. However, DC did do really, really well in the television department, and of course, as much as I hated what happened to Wick at the end of that show, I will admit that Colin Farrell was fantastic in the show as the Penguin, continuing on in his role from the Batman. And at the 82nd Annual Golden Globes, which aired yesterday on Sunday, of course we're doing this on a Monday, there were 3 categories in which the Penguin was nominated: Best Limited Series, Best Actor in a Limited Series with Colin Farrell, and then Best Actress in a Limited Series with Kristen Milioti. 3 incredibly competitive categories. They had, of course, Shogun to compete with. That's so many other like fantastic shows.
Well, Shogun was television series, not limited series. Because
not limited. Well, because now they're doing a second season, so yes, it's not in the same limited series category, but
Yeah, limited
um,
series went to Baby Reindeer,
Baby
and then
Reindeer,
Best
yeah,
Actress went to Jodie Foster for True
you are right,
Detective Night
yes.
Country.
Which both of those are fantastic TV shows. I'm trying to get into True Detective Night Country right now myself, but hey, if you hit on 1 out of 3, that's not too bad. I remember when I was the few years ago when my team and I were nominated for the Emmys for like the Tokyo 2020 Olympics with NBC Sports. Basically, we were submitted for 3 categories and nominated in 3 categories. I think we won 1 out of 3. So of course that's how I ended up with the Emmy. But that's not a bad hit rate, honestly. Like if you walk into the night as let's say Matt Reeves, the executive producer, and even Lauren, LeFranc, who was a showrunner, you go in with a chance to take at least 1 out of the 2 trophy, maybe potentially sweep and get 3 out of 3, or do 1 out of 3 or 2 out of 3. What you don't want to have happen is you end up leaving with nothing, and that seems to be not the case here, because of course, as we know now, you've seen it all over the internet, Colin Farrell did indeed win for best actor in the limited series. So yeah, I mean, hey, John, I wanted to get your opinion on this briefly, because I for one am very excited that the Penguin, and Colin Farrell more specifically, getting his recognition from the moment we got him stepping on our screens back in the Batman. He's just been, one of the best parts of this new cinematic universe that they've been putting together. And now that he's finally got some recognition after having done a fantastic, fantastic job with the role, because I mean, from the moment we got the teaser trailer where he kind of tells you his psyche, Rex Calabrese is his hero, and you get more of his accent, which just completely engrossing. The fact that he doesn't look anything like Colin Farrell outside of maybe just the eyes, it's amazing. And then we got an 8 episode TV series which was just beyond fantastic. So it was, in my opinion, probably one of, if not the best TV show of the year. Again, despite the fact that I hated the way that the character Wick went at the end, but hey, I can appreciate that it was written well. He's a villain. That's what the Penguin would do, and it was just mesmerizing sometimes to see the psyche of this character, the way that Colin Farrell portrayed it. I don't think a better actor has ever taken on a role of this caliber in the DC universe, certainly. I mean, you've had Heath Ledger's Joker, we have had Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, we have had Michael Shannon's, Zod. We've had plenty of, iconic villains in the past. Jack Nicholson's Joker. There's so many different, characters that we have seen over the years, but the Penguin just leaves his mark, and of course Colin Farrell is singular in that now that he has won the Golden Globe, and of course there's more awards to come in later on in the season. In the chat right now, if you guys are watching live, we've got Michael K. Retro Edits and Lex. And we will get into other DC news later in the show. And of course, we got Steven in there, Man of Steel Magnolias. And you guys are talking to us. Let's see what you guys are saying. Man of Steel Magnolia is saying, hope to see Wick again in the pages of DC Comics. Yes, because he was a character created for the show. I hope that, I don't know, maybe it's the ghost of Wick. Maybe it's a prequel of like what's going on with him and, his part of Gotham that pretty much flooded and, most of his family died as a result of what the Riddler did in the first movie. Yeah, Steven saying Professor John in the house. Well, Professor John is going to be right back. He is with us, but he's taking a bit of a break here. And then Michael saying The Penguin was a great TV show. I mean, I think it was. You guys let me know in the chat. Out of 5 stars, would you rate it as like a 4 or a 5? Did you hate it? Would you rate it 1 out of 5? I personally think that The Penguin was a 5-star TV show. It was a solid 5 stars, because literally I remember doing the weekly reviews of the episodes, and like week 1 was great because it did a perfect job of setting up the show. You gotta mix the flavors. It tastes better, and then from there to episode 3 or 4 when Sophia wipes out all the Falcone clan, and then you go from there and you move on to episode 5 I think, or 6 it was, and it's just gets wilder and wilder. There's an explosion, like there's more players being introduced into the fold. It's like all of a sudden the Maronis and Falcones are almost completely wiped out, and you got these new players on the ball field, and it was nothing like what we expected the show to go. And yet at the center of it all, despite the fact that Christine Milioti was absolutely amazing, she's Shun as as Sophia Gigante, Sophia Gigante. That's I forget how you pronounce that, but it was it was just great to see how having a showrunner like Lauren LeFranc take on this comic book IP and just completely turn it into television gold, and to see Colin Farrell just continue to play the character that he was just almost like naturally embodying the role when he was doing it in the Batman. The whole
What are
I
you
got
showing
you,
me?
I
What are you
got you,
showing me?
and then just transitioning to a TV show where, honestly, the way that show starts to the way that show ends, Matt Reeves was not kidding that it feels like it's directly connecting it's the bridge between the Batman and the Batman Part 2, because they start off with a montage reviewing what happened in the Batman with the newsreels, and then they end with like the bat symbol in the sky, and you can literally just pick up the second movie from there, which hopefully we'll get in 2027. We're gonna get into that later in the show as well. But John, what are your thoughts on Colin Farrell winning the Golden Globe for Best Male Actor in a Limited Series?
Respect to the Irishman.
Nice.
That's my heritage. Well, half my heritage.
No, hey,
so.
Absolutely, and we're gonna talk more about that later on in the show too.
But yeah, it is nice that someone who isn't the Joker gets an award. Finally got the Penguin getting an award, and most deservedly so. I know people are going to be upset about Chris and Milioti, but both of them were tough. The fact that it went home with at least one is kind of surprising.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I genuinely did not expect it to win any because of the major anti-superhero thing that award shows usually have, with the exception of like Black Panther and any Batman villain. So it was along those lines. So it had more to offer, I guess, in the eyes of the Academy, because like they just really like Batman villains and black superheroes. So like, if you got one of those things, you're in the eyes of the Academy. So like, all right, congrats. But it's still like nice to see, and it was also nice to see, just kind of inserting my own personal thoughts. It was nice that Demi Moore got a Golden Globe for The Substance, because horror movies don't really get a ton of love, even though it was for musical or comedy. But I'll take the W for horror. It would be amazing if she got nominated for an Oscar. So
it does open the door for more horror films, kind of like being considered as prestige. Movies. I mean, not every horror movie is gonna make it to that. It's the same thing with not every comic book movie is designed to be like an awards contender necessarily, right?
Yeah.
By the way, in the chat, I asked while you were away, what did you guys watching us live think of the Penguin rated out of 5 stars? I gave it 5 stars myself. Nico gave it 5 stars. Michael K gave it 5 stars.
I give it like 4.5. Like it was almost perfect, but I feel like there were a couple episodes that didn't quite get there for me. Mainly the second to last episode, and maybe like episode 2 or 3. I forget which one, where it was not as great as it could have been. Like, it felt like filler. Not filler, because the show was very lean. There was a little fat, but it just like it wasn't quite there. But it was like as near perfect as you could possibly get there. And as someone, because I know I've seen a lot of fuckers complaining about this, like, oh, skinny guy in a fat suit fucking getting an award. As a fellow fat person, I can tell you, we don't give a flying fuck. I'm happy that Colin Farrell won the award, and I'm happy that it's fine. It's whatever. Like, he is a guy that isn't fat and doesn't have clubfoot, yet he spoke to a fat person and a guy with a clubfoot. My buddy, he has a clubfoot, and he's like, you know what? Cool. We got some good representation that isn't a fucking shitty Adam Sandler comedy movie. So he's like, you know what? Cool. Let's go. So, yeah, like I don't care, and I'm happy. So like, y'all saying like, oh, it's offensive to fat people. As a fat person, I don't flipping care. So I just want to get that out of the way. I mean, I wish Milioti won, but again, it was a very tough category for, a lot of great actresses, and it's a little bit more. There is the idea, like, Who won? Jodie Foster. Jodie Foster's a name. Colin Farrell's a name. So Kristen Milioti isn't a name. So I feel like she's young enough and she'll get there eventually.
I'm willing to bet that she might take the Emmy, because again, these are the Golden Globes, and
Emmys can be like super specific. So like,
yes,
more so than the Golden Globes, they have more to offer.
There's more categories. I think that she's got a chance at winning more awards in this award season. And once we get to the Emmys, for all we know, she will take home the Emmy for the best actress in a limited series. But hey, you know what? Like I said earlier, striking on 1 out of 3 is still not bad. And if they were to win any category, and if you had to pick the 1 out of 3 to win, having Colin Farrell win as the Penguin, I think, is just, at this point in time, it's like long overdue recognition for a role that he has mastered, a few years ago, like all the way back to when we got even the first trailer for the Batman.
Yeah,
like
400,000 years ago.
They knew that they had something there, something special there right then and there. And since then, they've, of course, maximized the goodness that is Colin Farrell as a Penguin.
I understand. He's no Danny DeVito. But you know what? He's still
dude. I personally prefer his take, but still, if you're going for the comic book style version of it, we're gonna get into this news a little bit more later as well, of course, in DCU Daily proper. Continuing on with some of the news, though, if you guys have already seen Sonic the Hedgehog 3, then great. We hope you enjoyed it, and of course, you got to see lots of Robotnik in there, and played by Jim Carrey, not just one, but 2 characters, Robotnik and his granddad or his grandpa. So recently he was asked, because of course he said after the second movie that he was retired, and then he came back and did the third. He was like, man, I bought a lot of stuff, I need the money. And you know what, good on you, Jim Carrey, for just saying it how it is. Now, he was more recently asked about, hey, now that you have been in 3 of these movies, would you be open to coming back for the 4th one, or are you going back into retirement? What's going on? And he basically said that, he's open to returning as Dr. Robotnik in Sonic 4. This is completely the opposite tone to what he was saying after Sonic 3, or after Sonic 2, that is. To kind of quote him here with a little bit more of what he said, I'm definitely open to the idea, Jim Carrey said. Generally, they come to me with the next idea, and if it sounds fun, I'll do it. I certainly love this crew, and I love the fans. There's a lot of really great energy around it. And quite frankly, it sounds like, if
liar.
They gave him
Nobody
a good script,
likes Sonic fans. Not even Sonic fans like Sonic fans.
But John, I wanted to get your opinion on this quick, because if you have seen Sonic the Hedgehog 3, it makes it a little difficult to kind of figure out how Robotnik would be, fitting into a newer story.
First off, I'm going to say this. I don't think he should come back. I'm just going to say he had a really good ending. It's very unlikely that they would, they could bring him back, because it looked way too final. Like, even if it's like, oh, he teleported at the it's like, it's highly unlikely that he would come back. And I just don't think he should. Like, we had 3 really good movies with him as the villain. We finally got like the video game accurate look. Like, we got like the Eggman look, and he's got the stash and he's bald, and like, we got everything. So, and it was a really good ending for finality for him and Agent Stone and that friendship. So I think that was all really good. And honestly, there's tons of other great Sonic villains that could come into the limelight. Like, they're spoiler alert, it seems like they're bringing in Metal Sonic, and they're with another ally with Amy Rose. So it's I just don't think that they need to. I think it'll become too repetitive, especially when they went really, really overboard with the Robotnik stuff here, especially having 2 of them. And Gerald Robotnik was just a bit much at times, and one of the very, very few flaws of Sonic 3, but it did bring down the movie for a couple people, that it's like, it was a bit much. So I think they just need to, they let him let loose, they let him play 2 roles, they let him do this, they let him do that. We got the look, he got a good death. Let's just let it be, leave it to rest. Let's just move on to bigger and better things. And with all that, if they do, we're like, okay, it's Jim Carrey. People love Robotnik. The other villains don't hold the candle to Robotnik. Let's bring him back. With that, let's say tomorrow it's announced Jim Carrey coming back in as Robotnik in Sonic 4. The one of the ways I can see them bringing him back is like either like go full telenovela. Oh my god, he has a twin brother that he didn't know about. They could do that because I think that could be like funny for the Sonic franchise. It would be silly and it could like add to that aspect. Or they clone him. So like I could see that because I just don't want the original Robotnik coming back because I feel like it was way too like ironclad that with his death in that scene that it would be very difficult to like because even he teleported at the last second or he shielded himself. I don't know. I just feel like it would be a little bit grasping at straws, but I think like cloning or like twin brother, I think could be funny and silly and would fit into the Sonic lore. I think
I think it's everything to do with how you want to do it in a way that fits within the realm of. Because here's the thing, you're gonna do it in a way. There's no way to do it where it's not either gonna be, hard to believe or like they're gonna have to come up with some kind of plot device, right? But the key is to make it work within the realm of believability of what's possible within the universe they've established already, and so that like you said, it's funny, it fits the story, it fits the world of Sonic, it doesn't feel out of place, and as long as they can do that, I don't mind. I mean, I'll take plenty of. I'll still take Jim Carrey any day of the week over most anybody else that they potentially could bring in because he's still a singular talent and he's still one of the best at what he does. So I wouldn't mind seeing that. Now, of course, guys, we do have one more story in the news to discuss before we move on to DCU Daily proper. If you guys have been following this, the MCU or just Marvel in general, of course, you probably saw, Spider-Man No Way Home, one of the biggest movies of all time. It's one of the highest grossing movies of all time. It brought the 3 live-action Spider-Man together, one of whom was, of course, Andrew Garfield. Now, Andrew Garfield, in the lead up to Spider-Man No Way Home, John, he said very specifically, I am not in this movie, until images of him on the set got leaked. And then, he even then denied it. They were like, it's AI, they faked it, it's Photoshopped. And then the trailers came out and, they were all hidden. And then the movie comes out, and lo and behold, Andrew Garfield is in the movie as his version of Peter Parker from the Amazing Spider-Man movies. Now, he's recently been asked, like, hey man, they're working on a Spider-Man 4. Tom Holland says they're going to be filming soon, and the script looks pretty promising. So, are you coming back? To which he said, but I don't, I'm not attached. I'm not going to be coming back to Spider-Man 4. And then more specifically, he said, but I know no one's going to trust anything I say from now on. I mean, almost with a wry smile on his face. So, do you believe Andrew Garfield?
One I'm more willing to believe because he was because there was like an orgy of evidence of like him being in the movie. And it made sense with the multiversal antics of like, oh, they're bringing in, Jamie Foxx as Electro. They're bringing in Alfred Molina as Doc Ock. So like, okay, they're bringing in the other Spider-Man. It makes sense. I mean, bro deserved an Oscar for keeping up the charade for like a year and a half. Like, good on him. But it's, it's that. So that was like more reason to believe of like, okay, he's definitely in it. Here, I believe that he's not in it. Like, if it is like some sort of weird thing, oh, he's in it, it would be like a cameo, but because I feel like that the MCU is trying very hard now to actually, like, bring him back down to reality, bring him back down to earth. There's not going to be like cosmic shit or multiversal shit. I think they're just going to want to keep him your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man for the time being. And I think that's what Tom Holland wants. Because I feel like he fucking like backed Kevin Feige. Yeah, I think he pulled a Henry Cavill where he's like, motherfucker, we are going to have everyone forget Spider-Man. He is going to be ruined. He is going to be miserable because that is fucking Spider-Man. And if you don't fucking agree with that, you're going to find a horse's head tomorrow in your bed. So shut the fuck up and let fucking Spider-Man be fucking Spider-Man. So I think that's what we got from Tom Holland and what he wants to do with the character. And now that he has more clout and can say these things, then I think we're willing to believe that, yeah, I don't think he or Toby are going to be in this. I think they're just going to, you know, I think we're just gonna. I mean, I honestly, no, it's less spider bulge, but it's more spider booty. I mean, did you see that spider booty from like? I think they were filming like, I don't know if it was Infinity War or what, but like, yeah, Tom Holland, he has an ass on him. Like, not gonna lie. But yeah, I don't think we're gonna be getting anything, and I'm willing to believe him that we're not gonna be getting anything because it makes sense story wise, but Kevin Feige can pull a 180. Like, we're actually doing more multiverse stuff, even though everyone wants to put a fucking gun to their head in terms of the multiverse crap because they ran it into the ground that fucking quickly. So, but I don't think they're gonna do that. And I'm agreeing with him on this. Like,
yeah.
For me, Andrew, Toby, Tommy. There you go.
I agree with you exactly in that order. I think Andrew Garfield was the best Spider-Man. Tobey Maguire certainly very, very good.
I would say Andrew had the best Spider-Man. Toby had the best Peter Parker. Tom Holland's pretty good at both.
I mean, honestly, though, in my opinion, I thought Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man and Peter Parker were really fantastic. I thought he did a better job with that in terms of just playing that shy teenager who's just, a little, he's an outcast, right? He's an outcast in his class, and I just felt like where Tobey Maguire played it more earnest and everything. I just felt that Andrew Garfield's version was, again, my opinion personally, was better. And plus the Gwen Stacy storylines were just, very well. I honestly never could like Kristen Dunst's iteration of MJ. It was just annoying. Like, exactly. But I'm like, I could actually, I felt the pain when Gwen Stacy's neck cracks. I mean, everybody did. But I still, the chemistry between Emma Watson and Andrew Garfield, I just mixed the names. Andrew Garfield and Emma Watson.
I'm going to watch them.
I'm confusing my Emmas as well, aren't I? Give me the right one. What's her name? Emma. Somebody correct me. Huh? Emma Stone. Stone. I'm confusing all of these names today. Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone had better chemistry on screen, especially in the first movie, and then the second movie is just. I was like, you know what? I wish they brought her back from the dead for the third film, which never happened, of course, but which might have been for the better because they were gonna have what's her name again for the MJ? And remember the shot scenes with her for the second. Shailene Woodley. I don't know how that would have worked, but anyway. Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, I think, got the send-off in No Way Home. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man got the send-off. Both of them had movies, in the works that got canceled. Spider-Man 4 for Tobey, and then, of course, for Andrew, he was meant to get a third Amazing Spider-Man that never happened. And now it feels like Tom Holland can move forward. If anything, I would imagine Andrew Garfield would be back in Secret Wars, or maybe in Avengers Doomsday, or both. But, I do not see him coming back for Spider-Man 4.
I could see... Yeah. Because they said there was the rumor that they're going to bring in, Captain Hydra, Maestro Hulk, evil versions of our favorite characters. I could see them bringing in, I forget the name of it, and I forget what Earth it was, but it was he was kind of like a, Spider-Man was kind of like a Red Hood, vigilante type character. Where it was he was so he was on the run from police. I think they knew his identity, all this other shit. So I forget. Maybe somebody can help me with that. But but it was a suit used in Marvel Spider-Man where he had a leather jacket and it was a really simple, and he just had a mask. I forget what story that's from, but it was an Elseworlds, not an Elseworlds, a What If story. So whatever it is. I forget what the name of it is.
I'm sure one of you guys let us know in the chat. We're having a hard time sourcing it ourselves. But as far as the question of whether to pass the baton to Miles, I mean, quite frankly, Miles Morales already has his franchise. It's just animated, which I don't think they're going to do a live action version of that character until
at least
the Spider-Verse trilogy is done. And then, they're going to want that to breathe for a few years. And given that the third movie is probably not coming out for at least another year or two, chances are we're still a few years away. They're probably going to want to finish the Tom Holland second trilogy of movies before they consider it. And then if it is to be part of the MCU, then of course they will probably go and cast somebody at that point. But I do not see that happening anytime soon. But with that said, guys, that is the news for today. What we're trying to do now is, we look, originally we started off this channel also curious because we all love talking about movie news. We love DC, and we will continue to be doing DCU daily each and every day of the week, Monday through Friday. But I just like the idea of mixing in a little bit of the other news that's going on in the world of Hollywood because we all like to watch different movies and TV shows. Why not talk about them every day? And so
It
we
was
wanted to kind of do that.
sorry, it was Spider-Man Last Stand, by the way, and it was
Last
like an
Stand.
alternate universe where Spider-Man killed Kraven the Hunter and went on like a murder spree. I can see them bringing that character either
Okay.
played by Andrew or Toby in like Doomsday.
Yeah.
If the rumor is confirmed that they're doing like evil
Yeah.
versions of all these characters, and that's kind of an almost evil version of Spider-Man because he fucking kills people.
That would be interesting, except of course we just saw him as his own like version coming back. So I don't maybe that's like, the evil variants rumor. If that turns out to be true, then maybe Avengers Doomsday you see an evil version of Spider-Man being played by Andrew Garfield. So yeah, it's possible, but let us know in the comments, guys, what you thought about the news today. Of course, Colin Farrell winning the Golden Globes for Best Actor in Limited Series. You have Andrew Garfield saying he's not involved in Spider-Man 4, but nobody will believe him, and rightfully so. Of course, Robotnik, is he gonna come back for another movie?
No,
Sonic 4,
no.
maybe?
It's Mochi. We're not ending. Don't worry.
No.
We're
We're
continuing.
here.
We're just
We're
ending
continuing
the news segment.
the
We're
news
continuing on
segment.
with DCU Daily. Don't worry.
Yes, we are doing that. But yes, if you enjoyed the news, then let us know in the comments. Hit that like button while you're at it. And now let's switch gears. Let's talk about DC Daily. So welcome
Thank
on
fucking
in.
Christ.
Welcome on in to another episode of DCU Daily, and we are so glad to have you here, Justice for Batman, still, because I do not believe you, Matt Reeves. I do not care what you said at the red carpet at the Golden Globes. But we will talk about that nonetheless. Today we have so much DC news to get into, including the Golden Globes, and there was a lot of quotes from Lon LeFranc, from Matt Reeves. We heard from Robert Pattinson's trainer about the Batman 2. Of course, we have to talk about the Josh Brolin rumor. Is he still involved? Is he negotiating for a different role in the DCU? He was originally on the short list for the Kyle Chandler role, now taking on the older Hal Jordan in the Lanterns TV show. They were originally, earmarking Josh Brolin for the role, and he was offered the role, and ultimately he turned it down because things didn't work out. But he did say that he's open to potentially playing another character in the DCU. Who could that character be? We will talk about that. And of course, beyond that, we have so much more to discuss. As always, to do that with me, I've got John. Welcome on back in, John. How are you doing today? Which of these news stories today excites you the most?
All of them, because I love DC so much. So let's get into it before, we both fall asleep on camera.
Let's do it. Okay, so as we usually do, we're gonna get into some like quick hits at the top. So we're gonna knock those out. Some smaller little bits and tidbits. They're not necessarily entire news stories we want to get into for like 10-15 minutes, but just little bits of information. Like somebody picked out some interesting biographical data, as it were, and noticed that David Cornsweet is tied with Christopher Reeve as the tallest Superman actor in DC's
Where's
history.
Liz when you need her? About the height. The height, guys.
But how tall is he? That's clearly a question James Gunn asked himself, and he's like, you know what? If we're gonna do a definitive take on Superman, we gotta get an actor at least as tall as Christopher Reeve. And it turns out they're doing it just so. Hey, look. Ultimately, does it matter how tall he is? No. Like Henry Cavill played a great Superman. Brendan Routh played a great Superman. Both of them were, perfectly the right size or the height, whatever. Like it doesn't matter. Ultimately, it's going to be how you portray the role, as an actor, and what your demeanor is. Not only just within the movie, but if you play Superman, much like if you play James Bond or Batman, people know you as that character. A lot of people will be like, oh, that's Superman, without saying, oh, that's David Cornsweet. Especially in the case of David Cornsweet and Christopher Reeve. Superman was the biggest role of their careers, and for Christopher Reeve, unfortunately, he wasn't able to really do a ton beyond that.
Never really got out of it.
Yeah,
he was a phenomenal actor. He was.
He was, absolutely he was. Hopefully David Cornsweet can, establish himself outside of the DC universe. Of course, he's already done a few things. He was in the Twisters movie last year, and hopefully he'll continue to do other projects and maybe another franchise. But hey, look, the two of them have one thing in common, and that's that they are tied. Christopher Reeve and David Cornsweet as the tallest Superman in DC history. So there you go. I just wanted to bring that up, a little bit of observation. And speaking of which, another little observation that somebody made. I actually made this observation when I was watching the Superman trailer for the first time and we did the live reaction. I was like, look, is David Cornswell Superman? And he's bleeding. Who made him bleed? Like, is that Batman? No, it looks like this Superman does bleed. Now, of course, as Screen Rant pointed out here in the post, John, Zack Snyder's Batman v Superman had plenty of awesome moments. And if that first Comic-Con trailer ended on the whole "Do you bleed?" and then Superman flies off and he's like, "You will," like Ben Affleck's Batman, which was a moment that people just went wild with, right? Because they wanted to see Batman v Superman on the big screen.
Yeah.
Now,
I mean, he had prep time, so.
He had prep time. Now, in this new cinematic universe, of course, kicking off the new DCU with Superman, we immediately in the trailer, the very first shot after he crashes into the snow is Superman is bleeding, he's bruised, he's battered. It doesn't feel like it's because of kryptonite. So, but like it immediately makes the Superman not feel like he is, impenetrable.
It's definitely doubling down on like the argument against like, oh, he's perfect. You can't fucking. He's boring because he's too perfect. Like here he is bloodied and beaten, and then of course you have the fucking Snyder cultists that are like, oh, he's such a fucking wimp. He needs his dog to save him. So you can't win. But like, I love how they open with that. That's really great.
Yeah. I just love that again. They addressed that in a way, and I'm not saying that was James Gunn's intention. Like he's not trying to slap somebody in the face with this. I just think again, it's part of the movie. And we've talked about like how do you make a character as impotent almost as Superman, like in the sense that he is not impotent is the wrong word, omnipotent. That's the I'm having all kinds of trouble with words today because those are two very different things. A character as omnipotent as David Cornswell Superman or Superman in general, how do you make him relatable? How do you, what problems does he have that we can relate to as humans? And one of them could be like, hey man, he does bleed. He's it's like he in the flesh. He may be Superman, but he bleeds and hurts and bruises just like some of us humans do, and so he's not entirely a god. He does bleed indeed, and they answer that right up front, which I do appreciate. Yeah, sorry, Elite. I meant to say omnipotent, not the other word. But thanks for the catch and calling me out.
Oh, Elite, don't say that. Oh no.
Come on, man. If you've seen the bulge, okay. Anyway. So let's switch over to the Lanterns news. Again, Aaron Pierre has been talking about taking on the role of John Stewart, and every time he does an interview, it comes up. They ask him about it. It's the biggest role of his career.
That's the biggest thing of his career.
Exactly. But and he somehow every time he answers a question and he mentions something different and new. So in the latest interview with Virgin Radio UK, he said that he's constantly doing research for the role of Green Lantern, playing the John Stewart iteration, and he's been watching the animated TV shows because he's very meticulous and he just really does not want to leave any stone unturned. Again, what do you think about this? Because this just to me shows the dedication he has to the part. Do you think this is more just him doing due diligence as a great actor and this is his job, or do you think he's doing this because he genuinely loves the character and he wants to do it well?
I think he just maybe both. I mean, ¿por qué no los dos? But I think it's just like it's his job to like be really into, to be like the best he could possibly be, and it just so happens to be a character that's very much beloved, even by himself. Watching the show, the Justice League animated show, that a lot of people, that was their first introduction to John Stewart. So I think it's just like he wants to, really like get this character right, because it's like there's a lot of pressure for him. There's a lot of fucking pressure because it's like this is the first time this dude has been in live action. I'm pretty sure. I don't think he's ever even like for
we haven't had a I mean John
Diggle for like
was
an SNL thing or anything like that. I think
the closest we got was like the John Diggle thing, but I don't really count that. That doesn't.
I don't count that either.
It's not the same thing. So
he's Diggle, not Stewart. Fuck off.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't have your ring on this earth, John. Fuck off. All right. Anyway, but I think he's there's a lot of pressure for him, so I hope he's like okay in like with that. Like he's like okay. I hope he's okay because it's like it's immense amounts of pressure, and you know, and I just hope that's not like getting to him, and I just hope he's like, I'm gonna research the role, I'll do the best I can, and I think he's gonna nail it. Most definitely, I think he's gonna nail it. I mean, I saw Rebel Ridge; he was great in that. He was great in Krypton. So at first I was like, I don't know, but as time went on, I'm like, you know what, this dude he's pretty damn good. And once they confirmed it, I'm like, you know what, let's go. And I think like ignoring my thoughts on the show and who's behind it, like at the very least we're getting a great Hal Jordan, we're getting a great John Stewart, and we have a good supporting cast of characters that are for some reason all original, not they're comic book characters. Why that is, I don't know, but like, I whatever the plan is, I think we're going to be getting some great character stuff with, I mean, I guess there is pressure for Kyle Chandler too, because there hasn't been a good live action Al Jordan. So there is that as well. And same with Nathan Fillion. There hasn't been a good live action Guy Gardner. We got the fucking god awful JLA pilot in '97, which is bad.
Yeah.
To the point it didn't even feel like Guy Gardner. But yeah, so I think I just hope he's not like, and he's just like, he's like, I'm gonna research, I'm gonna do the best I can. Like I'm just do the best I can, because I mean, I wouldn't like, even though I'm not an actor, even I would never want to play a superhero, because it's like nowadays there's way too much fucking pressure. I wouldn't even want to write or direct a superhero movie, because it's like that's way, 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 way too much fucking pressure. I can't deal with that.
But you got to do your research and you got to get it right, because that's anything that is an IP. Like if you get cast in the new Harry Potter TV show on HBO Max, like you're gonna want to make sure you do your research. You read the books, you learn about the characters, you learn about what the fan expectations are, because that matters. So and same thing goes for Star Wars. It doesn't matter if it's a comic book thing or not. It was a big franchise. If you're gonna be the new James Bond, you better know who James Bond is. You better know what the books are and what the movies have been. But I just wanted to kind of briefly go back to the Superman story, because some of you guys had some really good comments before we move on. And Hosea saying, yeah, get wrecked, Superman. Also admit it's all thing. Who the heck did that to Superman? Right. I personally think it's probably just a kaiju, and that kaiju, takes a piece out of him.
I don't think so, because I feel like we saw the aftermath of that, and he's wearing the charred suit and all that. So I think we saw the aftermath of that. I think this is like later on in the movie.
Oh, okay.
Like this is like second half.
Do you think?
Two.
Remember in the theatrical version of the movie, like Lex Luthor, the Engineer, and potentially Ultraman, they're in this icy cave. Maybe they're entering the Fortress of Solitude. Possibly. And maybe they beat the shit out of Superman. Although he's like, take me home, so I'm like, Krypto's taking him back to the fortress. So, but I am saying, like, it's potentially that could be tied together. Maybe that sequence is all connected.
I'd like to think it was Ultraman and the Engineer, like really like. That's my, beating him down, and he didn't have anybody else to help him, because like it looks like in that fight, in like Mr. Terrific was fighting the Engineer, and then he was fighting Ultraman or whoever the fuck it's gonna be. So that's my guess, at least.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, we'll find out, I'm sure, maybe even in one of the trailers, like who indeed is beating him up. Another good comment here from It's Mochi saying, I'm just hoping that he doesn't become a punching bag like Bruce Timm did with his Superman. Believe me, this Superman is not becoming a punching bag. This Superman is going to lead the charge for this new DCU. They cannot do that. They cannot put him in that position. But then Jose, again, adding to I think what we all agree on, brilliant decision, just showing Superman getting wrecked straight off the bat, which does help to, again, establish the fact that this Superman isn't all powerful. He can be beat up. He can take a beating, but it's all about, he can get beat up and beat down, but he will always get up and keep fighting. Now, another good comment from Mochi saying, do you think that an event will happen where Guy Gardner and Hal will be aged down?
No,
I just don't. I think that's a little too hokey.
Like fucking, yeah. Like that's like, you know what that reads? That's like the fucking scene in Avengers Endgame where it's like, oh, he pooped in his suit, where with like Ant-Man being a
We
baby or
ran time
whatever.
through Ant-Man instead of him through time. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
that reeks of MCU. So
Yeah.
no, let's
I,
not
I
do
just, I
that.
mean, I don't think they're gonna do that because unless it's a situation where they want to do an animated show. I don't think they're gonna like all of a sudden hire different actors. Why would you do that in the first place? Because honestly, they're hiring these older actors because they want to showcase a particular version of both Hal Jordan as well as Guy Gardner. So I do not think that will be the case. But again, good question. And if it does happen, then hey, we will come back and bow at your knees and be like, you knew it all along, and you called it. Now,
Hmm.
of course, we got the first look, or maybe the second look if you go off the nightmare sequence in the earlier Creature Commandos episode. But
Hmm.
in this one, it's a little more specific. We got to look at Batman. Of course, most of his scene is in
Batman.
silhouette. James
More
Gunn did say,
silhouette.
though, more silhouette, but he did say, look, the Batman already exists in this universe. He's an important part of this universe, and he has an impact on it. And of course, if you watched episode 6 of Creature Commandos, you saw all of that. It's sort of similar to how the Batman had
It's
some cameo.
Batman.
I
Of
know.
fucking course,
I'm
he's an
just
important part of the universe. Why didn't you
I'm
just
saying
say
though, like
that?
they're not. It's one of those things where a lot of people are like, is this going to be a universe where Batman is just sort of because in the DCU or the DCEU rather, going off of Man of Steel, you knew that the Wayne Enterprises existed, but we didn't know if Batman existed until we got the news that in BVS we're gonna get this older Batman, similar to what we're gonna get in the DCU, somebody who's already in his like 40s, and then he's been fighting crime for what was it 20 years. Um,
20 years
how
in
many good
Gotham.
guys left?
How many good guys left? How
But
many have stayed that way? If there is even a
a
1% chance
1% chance.
he's our enemy, we have to take that as
There's an
absolute
absolute
certainty.
certainty.
Which,
Yeah.
by
Anyway.
the way, that's not how statistics works, Batman. World's
Although
greatest
it's
detective, but not world's greatest mathematician.
But dude, it's the whole idea of the extreme, to which he was like
Again, that's
his
not
moral compass
how
was
percentage.
lost.
That 1% is literally the complete opposite of absolute certainty.
No, but he's saying
So,
that's how big of a threat he is, that if it is even a 1% chance that we have to
but like he shouldn't have worded it that way. Like absolute certainty. Like
No,
that's
but no, that's exactly the point. I think it
it's not
works
how
because
statistic works. I'm just
it's not
saying.
about statistics. He's trying to emphasize how big of a
Ethan
threat
Peck is not
Superman
gonna be
can
fucking
be.
Batman. Shut up. Goddamn.
But hey, I just wanted to kind of point that out. A nice quote from Michael K saying, "I'm Batman." Chris saying he needs to be acrobatic. Look, he did say silhouette, and if I remember correctly, in that nightmare sequence, the version of Batman we got with like his cape covering most of his suit, that looked like a different design than this one. I mean, I don't think this is telling us that we're gonna get a Frank Miller Dark Knight Returns-esque Batman who's thick and heavy, but like I also think that we're probably gonna get a Batman that is gonna have to be maybe a little more similar to the Ben Affleck Batman to the Christian Bale one
I don't
because
know. It's
he's
all
gonna have been
animation. I feel like they're all over exaggerated.
yeah
They're all gonna be exaggerated. Like that's the point of animation. Like you could do all this like they're not gonna look the same in live action. So it's
right
like I think people are getting a little bit too houndy on the
yeah.
design here.
I mean, James
So
Gunn specifically said, "Do not get attached to the design. This is not the design that we're gonna
just
go
like
with
the
at the end of the
Suicide
day."
Squad, don't get too attached.
Yeah. Now, of course, speaking of don't get too attached, please do not get too attached to the Flash in the nightmare sequence that's, the Cersei's vision in Creature Commandos. But producer Dean Lowry, who was a showrunner on Creature Commandos, did confirm that Wally West is among the dead heroes in that sequence. Like, we're getting the Wally West version of the Flash here. And we had been speculating, like, hey, which version of the Flash are we going to get in the DCU? And I mean, going off of what Dean Lowry said, at least, it's going to be Wally West and potentially. Now, of course, it could be that we have multiple Flashes running around in this DCU as well.
I mean, that's what it was in Rebirth. So I mean, I hope that I just hope that like Barry Allen, there was an incident, he's dead, or something like that, or it's just they just combine the characters like they did with the animated series, because like Wally West in Justice League the animated series, he's essentially just Barry Allen Barry Allen's backstory with Wally West's personality. They essentially combined the characters. So I'd like to think that even though Superman hasn't been operating I feel like I like to believe, especially with such an older Hal Jordan, that there was like an age of heroes for a long time, like maybe throughout the 2000s and maybe the late 90s, 2000s. I mean, it seems like we're getting a slightly older Batman, not like Ben Affleck levels of old, but like we're getting a slightly older Batman. We're getting a way older Hal Jordan. We're getting, if Wally West is now I understand, like, as I said, in Rebirth, they just have multiple Flashes. They're just Barry Allen's the Flash, but Wally West is also the Flash. So it's like, it's just like, it just makes so much fucking sense because Barry Allen had 9 seasons of a TV series with Grant Gustin, and everyone considers him the be all and end all Barry Allen, even though it's really
he recently said,
even though it's really John Wesley Shipp, but that's beside the point.
But I mean, Grant Gustin still says he finds it unbelievable that he got to play the role for like that long. He's on Broadway now, and he still kind of looks back at it as like quite the experience.
They got to rest him. Like Grant Gustin had 9 seasons, 10 years of a TV show. Okay, and then you have Ezra Miller, who was a piece of fucking shit, and let's not do that again. So and on top of the fact, people are more familiar with Wally West. He was the Flash for almost 2.5 decades when Barry was dead, and then Jeff Johns had to fucking bring him back for no goddamn reason. So there was that. So Wally West is the more popular Flash. A lot more people like him, and it seems like we're getting like the second age of heroes right now, where it's like we have like older heroes like Batman and Hal Jordan, and then the ones that can take, the ones that have multiple, where it's like a multi-hero where there's multiple different kinds of heroes for each like moniker. There's multiple Green Lanterns, there's multiple Flashes. Okay, awesome. We have Clark Kent Superman because there's no other person to really be Superman unless you do Jonathan Kent, but that's way later. Batman, okay, you can have like Terry McGinnis, but that's again way fucking later. Wonder Woman, you have Flores, I think, the Brazilian Wonder Woman, but again, way fucking later. So it's like ones that can be around in the modern era are Wally West as the Flash, John Stewart as Green Lantern, and then possibly you could have like, maybe this is when the new 52 Justice League comes in, and even though they're doing a Teen Titans movie, they could be like, well, Cyborg was a Teen Titan, and then now he's going to be part of this Justice League with like the younger heroes of like, of John Stewart, Green Lantern, Wally West, Flash, and then instead of Martian Manhunter, even though I love my boy Martian Manhunter and I would prefer them to have Martian Manhunter, they'll bring Cyborg as sort of the second age Justice League. And then maybe even since the last Aquaman wasn't that great, and people still have Jason Momoa on the mind, and he's now going to be playing Lobo to really hammer in at home, maybe get Jackson Hyde as Aquaman, or Garth, but Garth is better as Tempest. So I would say just like, I'm just like spitballing here, like in terms of what I think they could do, because it seems like the main Green Lantern we're getting is John Stewart. It seems to be teasing we're getting the main Flash is going to be Wally West, which is preferable because both of them are also in the animated series. Both of them are more popular. We're getting Hawkgirl, so maybe instead of Aquaman, since they'll keep him, kind of away, since Aquaman Lost Kingdom kind of sucked, and he's not really a big fan favorite. Hawkgirl is, so they'll bring in Hawkgirl, plus more diversity. They have, she's Hispanic, a woman. Wonder Woman's not the only woman on the team, so they'll do that just like in the Justice League animated show. So they could do a whole bunch of things. I would hope they just don't adapt the Justice League animated series. I would like them to do like more interesting stuff in regards to that when they eventually get to Justice League. But again, just kind of spitballing. I just hope that Wally West is the main Flash, that maybe eventually we'll get a kid Flash and it's Bart Allen, because Bart Allen was done dirty in the fucking TV show from what I've heard.
Not very memorable. But like, look, I think that introducing Wally West, like you said, as a second generation in a manner of speaking, will allow them to again spread, like Chris was saying, let's do the Justice League of America or the Justice Society of America, whichever way you go. I like the idea of you spread them across time, and you have these different ages, and you have the overlap, and then you have the new era, and then it's sort of, again, it ties into even the idea that Superman's ideals feel, they feel old in the world, like old-fashioned, his ideals in the world of superheroes today, where everything is like corporatized. But maybe Superman can kind of like remind the world that, hey, you can be a superhero and just do things for the sake of the goodness of your heart and wanting to save people and help them out, rather than trying to get a payday out of it. And that could potentially be how we tie into those older characters. Maybe Hal Jordan agrees with him in that sense. Maybe we bring back a Barry Allen Flash. I would love to see that. But let's finish up these quick hits before we get into the bigger stories. Speaking of nightmare sequences, of course, Jesse Eisenberg has recently talked about how his career really was hurt in a real way by Batman v Superman's reception by the critics and by the audiences. He said specifically, I've been in poorly received things that just don't see the light of day, and for the most part, no one knows. But this was just so public. I mean, and you know what? It was one of the biggest movies he's probably ever been a part of in his career. It was Batman versus Superman, and it had Wonder Woman in it. You had Doomsday. It was a big deal, and I think Jesse Eisenberg's take, while controversial, I personally liked his Lex Luthor because it was something different. It was, quite frankly, not just manic, but it was scary in the way that I think if he was going for evil Mark Zuckerberg, I mean, which is a relative term. There's maybe a little bit of irony there, but or double entendre.
Evil, Mark Zuckerberg is just Mark Zuckerberg.
I'm just okay. That's what I was trying to say. But if he was going for that, then he did it right. Like the red capes are coming, the red capes are coming. And then the paintings turned upside down.
Cannot be unrung. I will say I don't care what anyone says. I enjoyed his performance. Like
I liked
overall,
it, too,
it was kind of like so bad it's good. But there were moments of like real menacing Lex Luthor in there. So overall, it was more so a funny performance, but like I think there were like bits of like him being like genuine, like a genuine threat, genuinely menacing, where he's like, "You had 5 minutes, now you have less." Like that's like, and then or like the greatest lie in America, Senator, like. The devils do not come from beneath us; they come from above. Like that's Lex Luthor to me. Like that, those small.
There were some moments of brilliance in there, which I loved, and like some of the things that you pointed out, which felt hokey to me when I watched the movie the first time, and every time since. I was like, that is a little.
Like Granny's peach tea, I'm like, really? And then the Jolly Rancher, and then
wouldn't you like to be fed a Jolly Rancher by Lex Luthor?
No, not even.
Wouldn't you like the privilege?
Kinks and fetishes and fantasies, not even close.
Yeah, well, but you know what? Clearly, look, as an actor, if you're a part of a project, and then you need to go out there and get other roles after, because as an actor, you're not just gonna do one movie and be like, all right, I'm good. Like you're constantly auditioning for new roles. Even for somebody as high profile as Jesse Eisenberg, I mean, it hurt his career and clearly because he hasn't really been a part of a big franchise since, I don't believe. And while The Real Pain has been a great movie that came out last year, is doing well. It was nominated for award. Did it win any awards at the Golden Globes? I know it was nominated, but I don't know if it won anything. But
I don't know. Hey, for Real Pain got nominated for a bunch of stuff. Yeah,
it did. That's
Kieran Culkin won.
Oh, he won. Yes.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, look, it hurt my career. Bro, you were in a Golden Globe nominated movie, probably going to be an Oscar nominated movie. It hurt my career. Maybe for like 2 seconds, but like now you're in like in a Golden Globe nominated / winning movie. So like, I think you need to calm down a little bit.
Yeah.
I think he's just saying that as sort of like maybe like a guilt thing with like the fans of like, oh, don't worry, you're not the only ones that hated me. I hated me too in that movie. So like we're in it together. I feel like he's just like catering to the fans who really hated this movie and were like who really hated his Lex Luthor. He's like, well, I hated it too. So that's why. I think it's I don't know. I don't agree with what he's saying. I think Jesse Eisenberg, he's a very good actor. He's kind of a one-trick pony, kind of does the same thing and everything, but like it works for him. So neurotic, weird, kind of
He does
borderline
it well.
autistic
I
kind
mean,
of
he does.
dude, but
But
like I think
honestly,
it works.
look, if you do it well and you get cast for doing that well, like that one thing well, then that's not a bad thing, you know. Like that's what character actors are. Like I'm not saying that Jesse Eisenberg is a character actor. I think he can lead an entire movie, and certainly he has in the past. But yeah, I mean, as far as his fit for Lex Luthor goes, we knew from the very get go when he was announced as the character, and then once we knew that he was going to have long hair, and there is an iteration of the character in the comics that has that, that they were going slightly off the beaten path, as a lot of what Zack Snyder did was, quite frankly, in the DCEU. But as an actor, you could be, you're putting yourself out there, you're being vulnerable, and you're playing a role in a character, and he probably was hurt by all the reviews, and I would be too if I was in his position, quite
But
frankly.
I mean,
So
he
I don't
never saw
blame
the
him.
movie. He never watches any of his movies, so I don't
Which
know.
is fair, but still, he got there. He saw the reviews. I'm sure people walked up to him and told him like, "You played a sucky Lex Luthor, best worst Lex ever," or stuff like that. I mean, you don't know. Like people take a lot of actors do take quite a bit of abuse, both on the internet and in the real world. So I have some sympathy for him, but at the same time, I mean, I enjoyed his iteration. It had some moments of brilliance, and well, it's in the past now. But hopefully Jesse continues to do well. A Real Pain is a pretty good movie. If you haven't already seen it, go see it in a movie theater. I'm sure it will also be streaming, but right now it's playing in theaters, so go check it out there. Now, with that said, John, we have to move into the main stories. We have 4 of them today. The first of which we discussed it a little bit earlier because we were talking about the news of the day, and we discussed the Penguin having quite the presence at the Golden Globes. I wanted to just go back here because there's a few other elements that we want to discuss, especially like, hey, where do we go from here? But just to recap, Colin Farrell, he won the Best Actor in a Limited Series award for The Penguin at the Golden Globes last night, on Sunday, that is. And that was one of 3 the nominations, I should say, yesterday. We had Colin Farrell nominated in the Best Act. These are all limited series category nominations. So it was Colin Farrell, Best Actor in a Limited Series, Kristen Milioti, Best Actress in a Limited Series, and The Penguin, Best Limited Series. And they struck on 1 out of 3. If they had to pick one, like we talked about earlier, you would probably pick Colin Farrell because his portrayal of the Penguin, it's been deserving of an award for quite some time, and he finally gets his due. But with that said, John, we reacted to it earlier. What else is there to say? I mean, do you think that Colin Farrell's The Penguin is currently in not just DC, but in general comic books, anything? Is he the best villain going right now in all of, comic book kingdom, if you will?
I would probably say so for the time being. I mean, he did such a great job in the show. Hashtag Vic deserved to die.
Why
But
you gotta mess? Just.
but yeah, I mean Colin Farrell deserved it. I think all 3 deserved it, but again, I haven't seen every nominee, so I don't know how good they like rank against each other. That's just me being a nerd about it. Like I want it to win because I think superhero movies deserve a little bit more than just you know just a little bit more
Welcome,
than just
Caleb.
like, oh, that genre.
Yeah.
So
I
I
mean,
just
honestly, in my opinion, this show did more to legitimize the superhero genre in a time where people are like, we've got people commenting on our videos, talking about how the superhero genre is at its death knell, and it's gonna soon die out like the westerns did. I mean, quite frankly, the westerns are still around, and they just look different than they used to. Like you don't have John Wayne in every other western anymore, but obviously, John Wayne is also not around anymore. But you still get a lot of westerns, or westerns that are crossed over with other genres, like Logan, for example. It's a great western movie.
yeah.
But superhero movies, I think we're in a kind of a transitional period where I think we have gone from maybe the golden age to now we're getting into the silver age of superhero movies, where you're gonna hopefully with Superman kick off a new era of reverence for the comics and embracing it more so rather than trying to go off the beaten path
I
or
I mean
trying to
I
be
view it as sort of
realistic.
like a in terms of history, like I guess like a sub golden age because the, I view golden age and silver age and bronze age I guess sort of like I feel like what at least what comics books would be classified as we're kind of in the modern age, but there's like subsets of each. Like if I were to say like a golden age for comic book media, I would say like whatever was first. I I think Superman, the 1940 serial, would like be the beginning, and then like the end would be probably the death of George Reeves and ending of like Adventures of Superman.
Right.
That would be like the golden age. And then I think the silver age would be mainly like Adam West Batman, Green Hornet, like a lot of stuff on TV, and like Superman would be the big thing of like the silver age. And then, you know, and as well as like Wonder Woman, Incredible Hulk, Spider-Man, and then I would probably say it ended with Quest for Peace, and then it began kind of informally with Batman in 89, and then I would say it ended with like Batman and Robin. Like that was a very short like Bronze Age. Maybe I again, I'm kind of going off the top of my head because I did have a structure for it, but then I forgot what it was. Because then I would say we're now in the modern age. It started with Blade. That definitely started with Blade, and now we're kind of getting subsections of the modern age because we're kind of stuck in like a modern age because we can't come up with like a better term for it. Because like we've been in the modern age of comics since like the 80s, so you know we're kind of like stuck in that mindset. So we're kind of stuck in that mindset of like that too. So I think we're getting like subsections now.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about like a sub golden age, sure. And then like now I think Superman is going to introduce like a sub like silver age. I feel like that makes sense. And I
mean,
also
yes.
agree. I'm sick of the comparison.
No, but I think
Westerns.
the reason why they do make the comparison is to do with the fact that the Western genre dominated the box office. Like the Western movie, like a Western movie of any kind, whether it's the Good, Bad, and the Ugly, or you know, give me another. I mean, there's like tons of other names. I'm not a big fan of the genre, but I can, you know, that's the one that I remember the most. But there's so many movies of the time, whether it was John Wayne, you've got like the spaghetti westerns. There's so many. Clint Eastwood made his name in the Western genre. It was the most dominant genre at the box office. That's the reason why they compare it, because today superhero movies are that. They power the box office. Like most, you know, theatrical distributors, most, you know, theater chains, whether it's AMC, Regal, like they really, you know, would be starving for revenue if it weren't for the superhero movies that bring a lot of, you know, crowds and audiences to the movie theaters. They go in, they watch a superhero movie, and then they might watch another movie, or you know, it has a knock-on effect. And that's basically what the Western was back in the day. And then, you know, there was an era of the musical. Like Hollywood loved its musicals in the 60s and stuff. So yeah, but I mean, like you said, Hosea, the Penguin, man, Colin Farrell, he doesn't look the same, he doesn't sound the same, to the point when they did the rap on the show and he was still in his costume,
and that was so
I was
funny.
Like, is somebody dubbing over the Penguin? Because I cannot calculate.
Get out of this fucking suit. Whoa, I went Scottish there. I apologize.
Yeah,
I had Irish and then I'm so sorry to the Irish. But it was like, I didn't get out of this fucking suit. I'm sick of the suit. I keep going Scottish suit. I don't know why. But yeah, that was really funny. I did really like that.
Yeah. I mean, it was completely transformational. By the way, we got My Orbit and My Dream in Orbit, rather, joining us in the chat, saying, side note, you guys remind us of Soups and Bats tonight. Oh, okay. Dan in blue in a bright room and John in black in a dark cave.
Yeah, I'm always in the dark cave.
Yeah, John is always brooding in the dark cave. That's great.
The night. Which is funny because my entire family calls this the Fortress of Solitude.
The Fortress of
I'm always here like by myself.
Solitude.
What was so funny in like middle school and high school, since our computers are in the basement, I would be down in the basement like doing like schoolwork on the computer. So like I would be like in the Bat Cave, like down there for so long, and now since I have my own computer in my room, they're like, oh, now you're in the Fortress of Solitude.
Fortress of Solitude. You would be the Fortress of Solitude if it was Zack Snyder on a very small budget. But
no, my life is better written than a Zack Snyder movie. And also, yeah, reminder: I am not in a basement. I'm in the second story. You know.
Yeah, there's a window. We have resolved this. If you guys go back a few shows, when we were live during the day, John actually did open up the window. There was
Shut the
sunlight.
fuck up, Chris. No, I'm just kidding. Like okay, here's the thing. I think like best of both worlds. I think like going back to like lack of better word, the Adam West suit where it was more navy blue than the sky blue. Like
Right.
I think sky blue would be too clashing. I do believe. I do believe. I think like having like a navy blue for Batman.
Yeah.
Like what I think they should do, I think like just straight up adapt the Rebirth suit because I feel like that gets everything right, but like have it be blue. Like have the blue cowl and cape, and then what I love about the Rebirth cape is that again what a lot of people want. They want the Dracula cape where it like he's like wrapped around it, and I like how they had like the wrinkles. Not the wrinkles, but it was like baggy on him, so it wasn't like totally smooth. I really liked that. I like how they like drew that in there. And then you could do trunks or no trunks, I don't really care, but I like how the bat symbol was like the big bat symbol, like what was introduced in kind of Batman Begin. Well, actually, I think it was
a little bit. Yeah, the Batman Begins.
I think it was in Robin first, where it was like the big symbol.
Yeah,
where
and had the
like
little symbol on top.
But I liked how because it has the best of both worlds. Where because I know a lot of people like the yellow oval, but this one is like it's the big one, but it has the golden outline. I really like that. I think that would be perfect. The Rebirth suit, I think, would be perfect in this Gunverse. So.
Yeah. By the way, Jose's question from earlier
We've
saying
done this before, my guy or gal.
I was gonna say,
don't know.
Well, we have done, I think, actually multiple episodes of fan castings.
Probably 3 at this point.
Yeah, so definitely like search for that on the channel. You'll find us talking about it in depth. We went through like a number of different actors. My personal pick right now would be probably, I think, like if they're going for somebody a little bit older, like as much as he's typecast, I think Jake Gyllenhaal could be a good pick. Alan Ritchson would be like if you really want to bulk him up, but I mean he's not the best actor. What's his name? He was in Twisters. Why am I forgetting him right now?
Glenn Powell. No.
Glenn Powell.
Fuck off.
Just having a hard time with names today. Glenn Powell. I think
we don't need Glenn Powell as Batman. It would be terrible.
But the thing is, he wouldn't really work as well if he was introducing Damian Wayne, right? Like I think Glenn Powell still looks
too young. And
too young. Yeah.
He would be a really, really, really good Bruce Wayne. He would be a terrible Batman. He's just like that shit-eating grin does not work for Batman. I think Ben Affleck did it perfectly out of all of them. Is the Bat smirk. Like that was in the animated show. Like so Ben Affleck did the Bat smirk perfectly.
The memes are so perfect. He's like, so you talk to fish. There's literally people took it out of the trailer alone the 5 times.
Like that's like
yeah, exactly.
At least I didn't
the dark humor,
or how it was like, didn't think you were real. I'm real when it's useful.
I'm real when it's useful.
That's like it's just like it's a shame because it's like if this Batman didn't fucking straight up murder people with a machine gun, he would be fucking perfect. But no, Zack Snyder needed to like take the wrong lesson from Dark Knight Returns and make him into a fucking murderer for
honestly,
no reason.
I think if Ben Affleck didn't want to play the role anymore, or if like he wasn't, I mean his personal life issues are still, a concern. I think he could have been the perfect DCU Batman too, because the direction they're taking the character anyway. And I mean, he's also like, aged into the role anyway. Like, you would believe that, there's a Damian Wayne running around that he has to try to wrangle. But then again, I mean, we'll find out whenever they do cast the Batman for the DCU. But hey, you know what? Colin Farrell winning the Golden Globes, and like you guys have been saying, he completely transformed himself, and he's done it now in the Batman and the Penguin. We know he's going to be back in the Batman Part 2, which supposedly is filming later this year. We'll get into that. Of course, he got congratulations from all the usual suspects, the DC official account congratulating him on the win. His speech, he was, like saying Carolina's got the bliss, she's crafty. She brought me something to stay hydrated literally every half hour, because under the prosthetics, like he would, he's sweating and he's like, oh my God, they're filming in New York City. It's not easy. Craft services, low-key underrated, and it plays a big role. I mean, Colin Farrell just appreciative of the fact that he got to do this, but it's, it's physically imposing, like the amount of hours he spends just getting the makeup and the prosthetics on. And then, of course, after winning the award, he did an interview with CBS Mornings, and Well, hey, they pointed out the fact that he now becomes the third actor to win a Golden Globe for playing a Batman
Yes,
villain. Of course, the
sirree.
previous two won it for Joker, Heath Ledger and Joaquin Phoenix. But John, you pointed out he's now the first actor to win the award who didn't play the Joker. It seems like every time somebody plays the Joker, that was the surefire, way to win. But now you got somebody who can do it playing the Penguin. I mean, of course, I for one think that Michael Shannon Zod doesn't get enough credit, but I think the Penguin now is definitely in that pantheon of the great, DC cinematic villains of all time.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
I think I think that like definitely up there. Like I liked him in the Batman. Again, the Batman I don't think was a perfect movie by any means. I thought it was good, not great. But like he really like because I was like, oh, I kind of see him as the Penguin, but like I feel like what Matt Reeves really missed with the Riddler, Lauren LaFranc really got with the Penguin, you know?
Yeah.
Like the Riddler was not the Riddler. Like I don't care what anybody says. Like when you look at him from like what we've gotten and what we got, he's just not the Riddler. Like he's the Riddler does not view Batman as an equal. He views him as lesser. Like that's
Yeah.
always been the case of like the Riddler is always trying to prove that he's better and smarter. Like just look at the Arkhamverse. Like that's like the perfect Riddler how they did that. Um but with the Penguin, they use like the realistic edge that they had and like made that work with the
Yeah.
core of what the Penguin is. The Penguin is a freak just as dressed as a gentleman, and they
Right.
use the
Exactly.
modern gangster aesthetic to really make that work. Like he has like a fucking a gaudy like Maserati. He's dressing in like all these suits. Like he has like a Rolex. He has like this he has like this fancy deagle that he fucking uses and like it's like plastered with gold and he has like these like gaudy teeth. Like that's what he kind of is, even though he's like a freak. You're a freak like me. So that's and but they're still like using it in that realistic lens that Matt Reeves craves so much. So I think they really made that work especially well, and I feel like the Penguin is just it just really doubled down on everything that worked in the Batman, and you know, yeah, he's gonna be wearing those prosthetics for a while.
I just love this. I'm like, yeah, after winning the Golden Globes, yeah, till he's 90. He's like, oh, fuck. By the way, that whole opening sequence to the Penguin is one of the best opening sequences to any TV show I've seen in quite some time. Because again, it does everything it needs to immediately tell you who Oscorp is as a person, what drives him, what motivates him, how he sees himself, where does he want to go, where does he find himself right now, and even to a certain degree, like how he's sort of connecting the dots in his mind, like here's an opportunity, maybe I can take advantage of it, like this is where I can go with this. Like he takes out some, something from the, I think one of the items he gets out of the locker that in the Iceberg Lounge was like these photos he can blackmail somebody in the police with, or like in the in the state, well, the mayor's office, right? But which he ends up doing later on, and clearly the man has a plan to like go up and climb up the ranks of Gotham, but that also means he's gonna be around for a long time. And you know what? They are talking potentially about a season 2 with Lauren LaFranc. And speaking of Lauren LaFranc, she was at the red carpet yesterday at the Golden Globes, and much like Matt Reeves was asked about, what's going on with the Batman, which we'll get into a little bit from now. Of course, you've had these theories that Dr. Julian Rush is secretly Scarecrow. And by the way, I watched that movie Carry On Netflix the other day, and Theo Rossi is one of the secondary villains in that movie. So I was like, oh my god, he's in this thing, and like I recognize him, and like I've seen him in Daredevil, and of course in the Penguin. But Lauren LaFranc actually told us, on the red carpet, she's like, you know what, he's not. He's not the Scarecrow, and she said it pretty, with no hesitation, saying, "Well, I can say he's not the Scarecrow." Now she could be lying; they could change it up later, but I doubt that that's going to be the case. What do you think, John? Do you think that that's, I mean, coming from Lauren LaFranc herself, who created the
Yeah, like
character
I
for the
think
show?
now people can finally shut the fuck up about it because it's a
Yeah.
stupid ass theory. So shut up about it. He's not Hugo Strange. He's not Scarecrow. Just stop. Goddamn.
Yep. By the way, Jose, I don't think any maybe WandaVision was nominated for an Emmy or for a Golden Globe, and I don't know if they won anything as far as Marvel side goes. But yeah, and then again, also in this article, they point out that Matt Reeves mentioned to the Hollywood Reporter recently, saying that they're talking about another season. Lauren and Dylan Clark being Matt Reeves' producing partner, and of course Lauren, who ran the show, ran the Penguin season 1, or the Penguin in general, if it ends up being a limited series after all. Um, Colin and even Matt Reeves are all talking about this. The idea of like, what would we do? It's really about coming up with the right idea, according to Matt Reeves, which could take a while sometimes if you were Matt Reeves, of course. And then of course the timing, and that's the key to me, the timing, because this show was meant to be the bridge between two Batman movies. And if the next Batman movie indeed still takes place only months after the first one, then I'd imagine that the second season of the Penguin, if there was to be one, would have to take place like down the road, or they would have to go like into prequel mode, which I think everything interesting we want from the following the Penguin has to be something that happens as a result of the events of the show, not
Yeah.
something that happened before the show. So, or before the Batman, when Falcone was still around. But they're working on the Batman too, so it's about how it all fits together, said Matt Reeves. What do you think, John? Do you think now that he's got this Golden Globe, which of course I think a lot of us saw coming, like they were going to win at least 1 or 2 awards out of the 3 they were nominated for? Do you feel like now it's even more of a possibility that we get a season 2? And if so, do you think we just can't? Is it possible? Is it possible we can get that season 2 before the Batman Part 2? Because
I don't think we're gonna get like
he's in the movie too.
2.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna get like a second miniseries to keep in the, because like it's technically, I mean, obviously things can change, but they got nominated for limited series, so I don't think they're gonna like call it a season 2. It's just gonna be another miniseries, like the Penguin. Like also, hi, my Dreaming in Orbit. We haven't seen you in a live show. We always see you commenting after the live show. It's nice to see you during a live show. I don't think we've gotten that before, but nice to see you, sir or madam. So
yeah. Yep. Jose is saying, yes, I've seen the memes. We were getting GTA 6 before the Batman 2, and yes, it is hilarious. Yep. Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, but as far as the Penguin season 2 or another Penguin TV series and limited series goes, given that he is in the Batman 2, we know he's going to have 5 or 6 scenes. He said it. That's Colin Farrell saying that himself, of course. I just don't see how they will manage to do another show between now and when the Batman Part 2 comes out, which to me is unfortunate. I mean, maybe they should do a Catwoman spinoff in the meantime, because that could have been taking place while the events of the Penguin are taking place, and so it ends up being still in that time frame between the first Batman movie and the second one. You're not moving forward in the story, and yet you are moving forward from the first Batman movie, but you're not spoiling anything potentially for the second one. I wouldn't mind seeing that myself. And maybe you end that series with Catwoman like finding out about Sofia Gigante, and she comes over. Like we could tease all of that, and then that could become its own limited series. I'm just giving you ideas, Matt Reeves. Take them or leave them. Tom King, of course. Oftentimes when we have had news from the Penguin, from Supergirl, anything that he has really been a part of in the comics, he usually posts a bunch of artwork from another, comic book story that he recommends you check out if you were interested in the character, if you enjoyed the version that you saw, whether it's the Penguin or Lanterns or Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. In this case, of course, he did, put up a few different images here, John. Have you read this comic? That they did. Rafael Della Torre and Tom King worked on this, and it looks more like the classic Penguin look than what we're getting with the Colin Farrell version. But the story, as Tom King says, it's very different, but it has the same tone and the same ambitious, perverse Penguin.
Except worse written, because it's written by Tom King.
I mean, I personally enjoy that he posts this because it raises awareness of the comics themselves, because that's where all the source material comes from. So,
and with that, Vic deserved to die.
Why do you gotta do this stuff, man? Like, why you gotta come after me?
Why you gotta fucking do this to me? What are you showing me? What are you showing me? Come on. if you got to punish me like this, I'm punishing you. So, you know.
Well, I mean, I'm just gonna remind you, like, I'm still looking for justice for Batman, justice for Wick, fuck the Penguin.
I
And
hope
Ron,
the
yes.
Batman Part 2 never comes out now. That's my hope. Fuck you.
Well, we're gonna get into that a little bit from now, but before we do, we have to talk about Josh Brolin, my friend. Josh Brolin recently has been making waves because, well, of course, um, he was considered for the role of Hal Jordan, right? Like Matt, this is from a while ago. Josh Brolin was rumored to be the front runner for. He even say people went as far as saying, and according to reports, that he was offered the role for Hal Jordan in the Lanterns TV show. And then after much negotiation, things fell apart. He didn't. He ultimately ended up not taking on the role. And then when he was asked about it, he just said it just didn't work out. That things just didn't quite line up. But now, I mean, I think even going as far back as like the week after all of that news broke that he was no longer in consideration, he said that he wouldn't mind necessarily taking on potentially another role. And we also got reports that maybe James Gunn and co. are considering him for a different role in the cinematic universe. So with that in mind, John, recently there's been some developments. The rumor persists that even though he's no longer going to be Hal Jordan, he could potentially take on a different role. And then to further those rumors and the potential for him coming in, he recently liked some artwork, that some fan art was put up online by of course a fan, portraying Josh Brolin in the form of Darkseid, who a lot of comic book readers might know if you've read both DC and Marvel, that Thanos is very much based on a lot of the visual aesthetic and characteristics of Darkseid. Darkseid in the comics, I think, precedes the appearance of Thanos and is generally considered to be a more powerful character. Of course, Josh Brolin, played Thanos in all those Avengers movies, so people were like, why not have him be Darkseid?
Damn crazy, man. Using, he played Thanos. Oh, playing Darkseid. Did you fucking use all 2 brain cells to figure that one out? Like, how fucking creative. Cool, great. Like, fuck off. Like, there's a dozen other roles that Josh Brolin would do better. And this would just feed the bullshit of like, oh, fucking Darkseid is a ripoff of Thanos, which is like fucking bullshit. And Darkseid, by the way, is a way better character. And that's not just me being a DC fan. It's just facts. Darkseid wants to find the anti-life equation and fucking rule the universe. Why? Because he can. Thanos fucking destroyed half the universe because, not even the whole universe, half the universe because he's a fucking simp. Get the fuck out of here. Like, Darkseid fucking crumbles Thanos, at least comic book wise. I'm pretty sure, maybe Thanos could beat him in the movie universe if we're talking about Snyderverse, who fucking, after he got yeeted after one battle, and it was like, I forgot where the anti-life equation is because I'm a fucking idiot. So, whatever. But yeah, Vandal Savage, Deathstroke, fucking a million roles for Josh Brolin that would be way better than just like, oh, he's doing essentially the same thing but for a much better written character. So, okay, fine, whatever. So, and before all the turds come in, be like, oh, isn't here? No. By the way, Darkseid came out in Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen in 1970, and Thanos came out in Invincible Iron Man in 1973, because I know people are going to fucking get on the hoity-toity. So, yeah, it's just that, it just like, don't do that. Like, I think he just liked it because he's like, oh, this is cool. Like, oh, hey, look, I'm Darkseid. Ain't that fucking cool? But like,
I mean, there's Boss Logic. Boss Logic's
great. I love Boss Logic. It's just like, really, come on, you couldn't.
Yeah.
Like, Darkseid, fucking Deathstroke would be fucking perfect. Like, straight up for Josh Brolin, that would, out of all the roles, because he's at that perfect age for Deathstroke. Because Joe Manganiello would have also been perfect to finally play the character properly instead of in just a fucking cameo appearance at the end of Justice League. But like,
I mean, he could be closer to the Manu Bennett version from the Arrowverse,
because
which a lot of people love.
Deathstroke is like an older character, but he's also like, but the reason he's so like, he's got these like super high. I know in Arrowverse he had like the Mirakuru and all that shit. I don't think he's a metahuman or superpowered in the comics. I don't remember. Exactly. Like, yeah, the fucking comparisons would be endless. It would be stupid. I just, no. So I think having him as like someone like Deathstroke, because like, I don't think he's superpowered in the comics. I'm not feel free to. Actually, he might have been experimented on by the Hive. That because I know his son was, and that's why like he hates the Titans because his son Jericho
I mean, but okay.
got powers and all this other stuff. But anyway, I'm getting into comic book logic, but it works because Deathstroke is like way older, but the thing is, he's like still like in his prime in terms of like he fucking acts like his body is like of like a peak human condition 30 something year old rather than what he actually, even though he's like in his 50s and 60s. Josh Brolin would actually fit that because Josh Brolin is still like peak, he muscular dude and he's in really good shape and he still looks good for his age. So that would be perfect. So I would say Deathstroke out of all of these would be perfect for Josh Brolin. I mean, I could see Vandal Savage as well, but again, I wouldn't want to see, because I feel like, I don't know, Vandal Savage is still kind of close to Thanos, like in terms of like kind of that goal, but Darkseid obviously, but Vandal Savage, I don't know. But whatever the idea is, like if Josh Brolin comes in, I think Deathstroke would be perfect, and he would definitely have vibes from his Dune role because I feel like he's kind of like a good guy Deathstroke there a little bit. So he could, and he's a tremendous actor, so he could definitely do it, and he can definitely go toe to toe with this version of Batman, whoever they choose for that. Not Glenn Powell.
But okay, so maybe not Darkseid, maybe Deathstroke, but what about maybe Bane? I mean, maybe just even if it's just the voice of Bane, like you wanted a very, big like actually physically imposing person, or maybe they do something similar to Tom Hardy. Do you think that he could play an imposing Bane? Again, Josh Brolin has a screen presence to intimidate anybody.
Let's get an actual Hispanic actor for Bane this time around, please, or at least someone brown, someone of color, like because he's Cuban in the comics, so let's keep it that way. Because I know a lot of people were pissed that they kind of whitewashed him in the Nolan trilogy with Tom Hardy, even though Tom Hardy did a great job. We're on like, let's try to get out of that, even though that was like only like a decade and a half ago, around there. Let's try to get like an actual Hispanic actor for the role, whoever they did. I know in my version, I picked a Swedish actor for the body, but I still agreed with you guys. Let's try to get like a big Hispanic guy to play the role, whoever that is, an unknown, a bodybuilder who can act, whoever that is. Let's stick with that for Bane if they do decide to bring in Bane later on.
Yeah. By the way, Jose in the chat saying Josh Brolin is Jor-El, rather. I think actually that's not a.
James Gunn already said he wants his Jor-El to be in his 30s because that would make more sense than a super old Jor-El.
I hear you. I mean, but you can always age him down a little bit. Daniel did Lewis as Bane. Come on, Caleb. I mean, I know you're kidding.
You could do it.
Yeah. James M saying, why are they trying to recruit all these MCU actors for the DCU? I don't think it has to do with the fact that they're MCU actors.
I think Josh Brolin's just great a fucking actors. Phenomenal actor. Like that.
I mean, and he's done the Dune movies. He's working with Warner Brothers all the time. He's done 2 movies. I don't know if he's going to be back for the 3rd Dune movie, Dune Messiah, or not, but he was in 2 of them. And he's just one of the best names around. I mean, just because he played, Thanos and he was Cable in the Deadpool movies too, but I don't think it precludes him from being able to be a part of the DC universe. In fact, before he was anything in the Marvel Cinematic Universe or the Fox Marvel Universe, he was Jonah Hex back in the day playing that. I mean, it wasn't a great movie, but he was in DC before he was in Marvel. So if anything, he's returning back to his roots, as they were his comic book roots with DC. But with that said, there's also the possibility that if it's not Darkseid, if he's not Deathstroke or Bane, that he could just be playing a different character entirely, somebody who's completely unexpected. Do you see there being a role currently?
Mr. Mix Your Spit Lick, Josh Brolin. There we go. Sorry,
that's
I couldn't even get that. That's no. Let's not do that. I'm just kidding. That was a joke. I'm not even serious about that. Please God, no, don't roll with that. I remember some whoever said Vandal Savage. I could see that. I could see Vandal Savage. Although I will say Vandal Savage is kind of ethnically ambiguous, so I don't know if they want to do like something with that. But I think again, Josh Brolin could definitely do it. I think it would be awesome if they got him to play a hero. Like I think like if they do decide, well, yeah, of course he was in Goonies. I think what would be really awesome if they decide to bring in like, oh, the Justice Society was a thing, like back in like an age. Obviously, they're not going to have it be like the 30s and 40s.
Wait,
in the comics.
hold on.
Him as Wildcat. He would be fucking awesome as Wildcat.
You know what I was gonna say? I was gonna say he could be a great Dr. Fate.
No, he's too gruff. He's too gruff.
No, but Fate. Like I think he can pull it off. I don't know.
I prefer to have a good actor for Aquaman.
Oh, I'm sure you meant to say Hemsworth, but I think he's still busy.
Chris Hemsworth, aka the worst Chris.
Well, he's still busy being Thor. He's I don't know. I mean, he probably has time, but I mean, it would be James Gunn wouldn't want to bring in somebody who's actively playing one of the most iconic Marvel heroes. Josh as Deathstroke. Oh, Josh Brolin as Deathstroke. Yeah, Marcus agreeing with you, by the way.
Yep.
That would be a good pick. I think that's probably the most obvious one. But Deathstroke doesn't, unless the Bane Deathstroke movie is actually real. I don't know. Like if that was the case, then maybe they're waiting to make that official after Josh Brolin signs on the dotted line.
Yeah,
if that is the case, but we'll see.
I would love to see Justice Society in this world.
I would too.
They were like a thing in like the 60s or 70s.
Yeah.
Because obviously you have to make the continuity work because you can't have them be in the 30s and then have them all still be alive. Mm-hmm. So I would say like 60s, 70s would probably work, maybe even the 80s. And then like do that. And I think that would be a really cool, and he would be an awesome Wildcat. Like Wildcat would be perfect. Again, super like no holds barred, gives zero fucks. It would be awesome. Thank you, Caleb. Thank you. I wouldn't say he's the best Chris. Personally, I think the best Chris is probably Chris Pine in terms of acting and all that, but Chris Pratt's underrated. I feel like he gets a lot of hate for dumb reasons.
I would have totally taken Chris Pine as a Hal Jordan. Remember, he was also on that short list.
Yeah.
That would have been nice.
Who's the other Chris? Chris Evans. Yeah, Chris Evans.
Yeah,
Chris Evans. He's okay. Like he's fine. I think he works. Like it was nice to like I saw a couple clips of him as Johnny Storm, and I'm like, that's nice to see. Yeah. But yeah,
he's probably gonna be back as that in Secret Wars. He's gonna play like three versions of the character. He's gonna play Human Torch. He's gonna play Captain Hydra, and he's gonna play Captain America. And he's gonna be also old man Steve Rogers.
He's gonna play Mr. Rogers and
Mr. Rogers. He's gonna play like 5 characters. But anyway, so the Batman 2. We gotta talk about the Batman 2 because we've been talking about this for a long time now. The idea that they've moved this movie twice now, and each time they've delayed it by a whole entire year. It was originally going to come out in October of 2025 this year. Then they had it moved in an entire year, pushed it back to October of 2026, and then lo and behold, only a few weeks ago, we got the news that it's being delayed again till October 2027. Justice for Batman. What the actual fuck, man? But look. We have ragged on this for a long time, and I think in some ways it's still a valid criticism that it shouldn't take you 4 years to work on a script for a movie when you had some idea what you were going to do with this character even before you finished filming the first one. Like, they should have finished the script, right? But Matt Reeves was on the red carpet at the Golden Globes, and he, of course, is an executive producer on The Penguin, which won Colin Farrell the award for the Best Actor in the limited series. So Matt Reeves was there, Lon LaFranc was there, I'm sure Dylan Clark was there, the producing partner for Matt Reeves. And so Reeves was asked on the red carpet, what is going on with the Batman 2? And he addressed it in more direct terms, saying that, hey, we're getting it to production this year, John. So he said that to the Hollywood Reporter. Do you still believe what he's saying? Because, of course, James Gunn has said as much that they're looking to start film later this year, and then that's why they moved the release date so that they can have enough time to film the movie, to do the VFX, and then they really seem content with the idea of releasing it in October. I know we discussed that potentially if you put the release date in October, they have a March 2027 release date that's open right now, that if they get ahead of their schedule, they can potentially move it back to March 2027, which would be pretty much the same month that, 2022, March of 2022, the Batman came out. So it just gives them more time to do what they need to do. But again, the core question being, do you believe Matt Reeves that they're going to actually hit that deadline now, or is this still a lot of just hype and, nothing to really back that up with.
I think I want to believe him, just like the X-Files. I want to believe, but
I want to
I
believe.
like.
Ah,
I
the truth
think
is out there.
I want to believe that he is, and a lot of me says yes. I think he is saying that truthfully, because I mean he did quickly mention, because I know there was the rumor that he's going through personal stuff, and he did quickly mention that. So, you know, I think we I like to believe him. I like to say yes, we're getting it this year. We are, like, at least production wise, he's I truly believe he's finishing up the script, and they just want to give him enough time. So they're like, okay, let's play it safe, give it to 2027. But as you said, when we were doing our timeline, it's entirely possible that one of those 2026 like dates. Oh, okay, you
There's a
finished it
mark. There's an
early. Let's
like. Let me pull this up again. There is an untitled movie set for March
No, May
2020.
2020. There's also May 2026. I don't think that's possible, but
No,
March
no, no. March
2027.
2027 would be again like what is it? 7 months sooner than when the movie's set to come out.
Right.
And the Batman came out in March of 2022. So I'm just saying, in terms of if they could be confident that hey, in March of 2027, like you can have a similar box office trajectory that they had in 2022, right? Like they've released it in that season before. I mean I like the idea of releasing it in October because this film noir they're probably thinking that it's a movie that will get some awards consideration, so they want to release it in that time frame.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, like you said, John, maybe they get ahead of their production schedule and then move, because right now there's nothing in that date in March 2027. So unless they announce something else there, and even if they do, they could easily just flip the two.
Yeah.
It's I would imagine that's possible. Um, or maybe they move it to June and then move Dynamic Duo down, or maybe move Dynamic Duo to March, potentially. It depends on like how good Dynamic Duo turns out to be. But speaking of which, John, though, you alluded to this that Matt Reeves also talked about some of his personal issues, addressing that for the first time. I think up until now we have been hearing that from like scoopers and like there's something going on.
Rumors and like, oh, he's
But
doing, it's like, which is, by the way, kind of a fucked up thing to do. Like, not from like the
I
rumor,
mean,
like, oh, he's going through something. It's like, why are you fucking saying that then? Like, come on.
but like the people who were saying it, they're like, our sources and blah blah blah. Like, or
Yeah, but it's
it wasn't.
fucking rude. All right, I'm just
It's just
saying.
I personally did not want to speculate until we heard from Reeves, and then here we are.
Exactly.
He mentioned, that there's been a lot of stuff going on in my life in the last year or so, and he's been such a good friend, and he, as in Colin Farrell, he's such a beautiful man. And then he went on to say, I can tell you that we're going to be shooting this year, and that we're excited about it. I can't really tell you anything about it except that we're really excited. We're continuing this story. I'm really excited to be making it, to get our cast back together, to get new people involved, and we are really excited about it. I mean, he's really excited about it. But then he continues to say, even more so, what I'm excited about is I feel we're doing something that absolutely continues where the story came from, but it's something that I hope people are going to be really surprised by. And then, of course, in a separate interview, he had said that because we're still finishing the script and there have been so many things going on, the next year is about getting into production and getting the movie going. To me, the way he's talking about it, clearly he must be in some level of stress, or something must be going on in personal life, because when you say something like, oh, the next year is about getting it into production and getting the movie going, or this is the year that we're getting into production this year, that to me that comes across as somebody who's clearly got stuff going on in his life that he's been stressed out about, and then maybe he might even be overwhelmed by, and then he looks at this as like, okay, my goal this year, the biggest thing I need to do is get this into production this year. That's the goal. We're going to do that this year no matter what happens. And so he clearly recognizes that the 2-year delay is a lot to ask for fans to wait for the sequel, but at the same time, I guess he's trying to manage alongside his professional obligations, whatever is
Mm-hmm.
going on in his personal life. What do you think about what Matt Reeves said here? Again, just alluding to there's a lot that's been going on in his personal life,
Hello,
and maybe even
Manos.
Colin Farrell helping him out and being a good friend, being there for him in this time of need.
I think yeah, I think this is it shows a lot about the men's character and what um you know what we're getting from the future of the Batman verse, the Bex, the Reeves verse, whatever you want to call it. I think, I think that was definitely. I like how he did finally say something. I just wish it wasn't like the rumor scoopers and all that shit like coming out with it first. But I'm glad he did say something like, "Yeah, it's a little bit much, but I'm going through it." And luckily, he was here to help me, and I think that's a really great thing to do. Like, because sometimes cast members become more than cast members; they become friends, they become good friends, and I think that's fair. That's very fair. So, whatever it is, whatever it will be, I think I'm gonna believe. For now, I'm gonna believe Matt Reeves. But yeah, there's also the thing of like until I see set photos, I'm gonna really believe it. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of believe that too a little bit. Not gonna lie. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then of course Enterprising joining the chat, he's saying, "Hey, look, at least he addressed it finally. Like he did it formally, and so now we, hear it from the horse's mouth. It's not just speculation from scoopers and people who are in the know necessarily." So, yeah, and then Ray J saying, "You know what? He addressed it now. Let the man cook." And you know what? Fair enough. Mr. Carter saying, "I'm glad Gunn didn't air his business like fans wanted and let him do it himself." Yes, I don't think it was Gunn's place to say anything about it beyond the fact that he just addressed the fact that look, the Batman 2 got delayed, and he's working on the script. He said he's working on it. He hasn't finished it. He clarified the wording, but he did not say anything about the personal issues because it's not his place to say it. I mean, I wouldn't do it. I mean, nobody has. It's Matt. If Matt Reeves has something going on in his personal life, he should be the one who chooses whether he wants to bring it up and to the public. Like it's personal life.
Mhm.
Like we all deserve some privacy. Manos Time saying Matt looks so excited in that video. He did. I mean, he did. He said I'm really excited like 5 times. So
He
clearly
looks like a
he's
kid at a candy
excited.
shop,
Yeah.
doing the hands and all that.
The
I
glasses.
think like it's just like sometimes, yeah. I mean, we kind of made fun of him a little bit, but it's just like at the end of the day, if like the man's going through stuff, then we gotta like give him like. That's why I didn't want to like jump on the whole bandwagon of fuck this guy. This guy's a dick, Dan.
Dude, look, I was like, hey, my reaction is a little exaggerated. I get it,
A
I understand,
little.
but it's also
Look at your
coming
fucking
from
monitor right now.
what the
Hashtag caught in 4K right here.
yes, but still, it's valid criticism. I will stand by what I said. It's bad optics of what James Gunn said to like kind of almost like threw a batteries under the bus with saying I haven't even seen the first draft yet. I'm like you can word that differently. And then of course I will still say this. Matt Reeves has been working on this script since 2022 in some form or another, whether it is coming up with the ideas, the outline, and then actually working on the script itself.
Right.
There is yeah, I mean, has there been something going on in his personal life for the last 3-4 years? I mean, he's also been executive producing The Penguin, working on an Arkham spinoff that didn't get greenlit by HBO. There's still other things going on. He's an executive producer on The Cape Crusader. I mean, he's got his hands in all these different pies. To me, it's like like it's you can have
Yes,
stuff
Ray
going
J, I
on,
agree with that.
but
Ray J saying I'd rather
yeah.
him get it right than for it to be rushed. I agree.
No,
It
and
shouldn't
I
be
hear
rushed.
you on that too. I'm not saying rush it out. I'm just saying
No,
he's
I know, I
taking way
know.
too long in general, right? Like we talked about how Christopher Nolan made up Dark Knight, the Dark Knight, went on and did Inception, and then came back and did The Dark Knight Rises, all within a 4-year span. 2008, 2012. No, it was 2000. Yeah, 2008, 2010, 2012. 4 banger movies in 4 years. And here we are with Matt Reeves, like he's gonna by the time the movie comes out, it's gonna be 5.5 years since the first Batman came out. So
Hmm.
I just think like again, like as empathetic as I am to his situation and whatever may be going on in his life, we hope that he comes out of it, better for it, or just again being able to focus on what is a fantastic film franchise that he's created
Yes.
here. But I still look at it as like, like what were you doing sitting on your butt for 2.5 years? Like I know the strikes were happening in 2023, but it wasn't like they even happened for the entire year. That was like the latter half of the year. You still
Yeah, that was like 4 or 5 months, maybe.
even then he had a whole year before that to work on the script, and then he had some time, I'm sure, last year. Like like if you're gonna make a movie within a 2-year time span, then clearly a good script can be written in as little as a few weeks. You could write it in a year and a half, 6 months. 4 years seems just a long time to work on a script before you even get into production. That's all I'm saying. I have nothing against Matt Reeves personally. I hope that whatever he's going through in his personal life, he's able to resolve and then move forward and move on into hopefully a better life for himself, whatever that may be that is going on, and then continue to make great cinema, great tell great stories like we all know he clearly is capable of doing. So that's all I'm going to say to that, about that. By the way, Jose XCI saying James Gunn directed and wrote 2 movies, a series, animated series since the Batman, so I get it, but I can wait like a good boy. I waited 8 years for Red Dead Redemption 2, so let him cook.
That's fair. To be fair, that's different. Video games require a lot more than movies, so I don't know, but like I can see what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, also, yeah, Manos Time pointing out that it did take him a good 3-4 years to come up. Yeah, it did, but I mean, it's also the first movie is a little different because like they spent a lot more time building the sets, they developing the idea from scratch. I feel like a sequel shouldn't take as long to turn around because you have a lot of the pieces already in
like
place.
When you're
not casting a new Batman,
like a consistent timeline of like, oh, this takes place over a couple
like literally weeks apart. Like you can't. Like, how do you make me believe that?
Like this I know supposed to take place in December into January. Like that's kind of bullshit. Like I know Robert Pattinson isn't gonna look like a fucking decrepit old man in 5 years, but like he's supposed to be young Batman for trying to figure this out, and he's gonna be 40. Like, come on.
Yep. I mean, speaking of Robert Pattinson, by the way. Speaking of Robert Pattinson, not only is he going to be, of course, coming back for the Batman Part 2, but he is already getting in shape for it. His personal trainer confirmed that he's been lifting and doing martial arts to prepare for the Batman 2. So it sounds like he's getting ready. I mean, they're meant to film later this year, so it would make sense that in the months leading up to it, he's trying to get back in his superhero shape. Of course, he's also gonna be filming the Christopher Nolan movie, which I think it's filmed in the first half of the year. So once he's filmed the Odyssey with Christopher Nolan, then I think he's just gonna move on to filming the Batman 2, and of course in the middle of all that, or even before all of that, he's gonna be promoting Mickey 17. So he's got a busy year ahead of him. But like, what do you think? Again, the idea that Robert Pattinson's going into training, does that make you kind of? I mean, does it excite you a little bit more that yes, maybe that it makes the the shooting schedule for this a little more concrete, that they're actually gonna film later this year for the Batman 2?
That's excited, but like I'll get like really excited when Matt Reeves is like, I have a first draft. That's if he's like if like he fucking drop kicks the door into fucking James Gunn and Peter Safran's office, just grabs the fucking script and is just like, there, fucking read it, bitch. There's the first draft. There's your fucking first draft. Fucker. And then just like fucking grabs something, drops it, and then just leaves. Just like, there. And then he's like, James Gunn's like, all right, guys, I got the first draft.
Yeah, I agree with you, my dream in orbit. Exactly. 3 to 4 years is a long time to write a script. But hey, looks like he's almost done. And I mean, if they are going to go into production on it later this year, then they need to have a script that then the rest of his team can use if they need to, to build new sets, to scout for new locations to film in, any new actors they're bringing in. They need to do all kinds of, costume design work. They're probably need to cast some of the new actors they're going to bring in. And Rage is saying Matt isn't Nolan, though everyone has got their own creative process, and I respect that. I do agree with you there. Everyone has their own process, and yes, Christopher Nolan is Christopher Nolan for a reason. Not many people are like him. He's very meticulous. He does great work, but he also is able to turn it around pretty quickly. The fact that Christopher Nolan's filming an entire IMAX shot in IMAX cameras using new technology that's never been used before this year, and literally months from now starting to film that, and then the damn movie's coming out next summer. Like it goes to show you Nolan's got a process and he knows what he's doing.
Practicals on set, so he doesn't have to do extra.
But I mean, honestly, I'm okay with that. I'm like, if that's how you want to go about it, and that's what gets the movie out quick, and you know what? Look, here's the thing. I would be more worried if that led to mixed results. but Christopher Nolan barely misses the mark. Like clearly, Oppenheimer was all practical effects, and there was, I think, the famously no digital CGI VFX in the movie, which I don't believe for a second. But even if it was, a small bit here and there, clearly a lot of the big stuff was just all shot in camera. Very impressive. The movie made almost $1 billion, won him his best directing Oscar finally, won the movie, several awards. I get it. It's a false comparison. It's like comparing, I don't know, like let's say David Leitch to Steven Spielberg. It's they're not the same thing. They're not one and the same. I get that. I do. But Matt Reeves is a good director, and I just think, like you guys are saying, and I agree with you, he's a little slow. And for a franchise as big and as significant as a Batman, I think in order to keep the audience's attention, but also, like I said, it has knock-on effects of now they cannot roll on another season of the Penguin, which has so much momentum now. He's won the award at the Golden Globes. It will probably pick up a few trophies at the Emmys. It's going to have a lot of positive momentum, and then all of a sudden they have to just sit on that for a couple of years, because the soonest they can probably release anything that is a sequel or in any way a continuation of the Penguin story, it has to be after the Batman 2. And that means it has to be probably in 2028. And there's a pretty big gap if do your math right between 2025 and 2028. That's 3 fucking years. So it has an effect. Now, of course, like we talked about earlier, they can do something else that's a bit of a spin-off that takes place concurrently. But, unless they've changed the timeline of the Batman 2 in terms of when it happens, it just, like it's because of the delay on the Batman 2, they can't do anything else in that franchise, and people want more stories from that world. I guess maybe the only other thing they can do is they actually get that Arkham show off the ground. Maybe that's something, maybe we get to see the Riddler and Joker kind of hang out and make, be best buds in Arkham Asylum.
And then everybody makes Rule 34 of it, of them like having sex, because that's what usually happens.
I did not know that was a thing, but cool. I wouldn't mind seeing that. I suppose that would be more representation, man. I'm all for it. Now, of course, speaking of more representation, somebody who didn't get very good representation was Frank Grillo back in the MCU days. But now that he's coming over to the DCU, he's enjoying a lot more screen time, and he's already, had a leading role in Creature Commandos. We know Creature Commandos is getting renewed for a season 2, and of course we know that Frank Grillo is gonna be in Superman. He's gonna have a small role, but nonetheless a role in Superman coming out this summer. And then later on in Peacemaker season 2 this fall, he's going to be like one of the leads, like probably the principal protagonist, if not or antagonist, if not the principal antagonist, the main villain of the show, because he's gonna be out for revenge for his son. So. No, I wouldn't. I mean, like, why not? Like, let's expand our horizon, shall we? Elite Easy is saying 2 years post production in the Batman sounds about accurate. I agree with you. There's a lot of VFX in that movie that we don't realize, but there's a lot of stuff done in camera too. Hosea XCI saying 3 years is that Game of Thrones season 8 levels of waiting. I know we don't talk about the season, but still.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I mean, dude, Severance is taking 3.5 years to do a season 2. It's just ridiculous how House of the Dragon season 2 took like 2 years. Just people, get your shit together. Like, they used to be able to put out 22, 23 episodes a season every fucking year. And I know you're not doing as many episodes and you're spending a lot more money, it's more VFX, but you can still do it. I believe in you. We can do 8 episodes once a year. At least you could do this. Or find a better way to do it. But again, getting back to the Frank Grillo thing, Hosea is really excited about Frank Grillo's involvement in the DCU, especially Superman. But today, I wanted to kind of discuss a little bit more about how Frank Grillo's Rick Flag Sr., John, how will he end up becoming the head of Argus? Because he said that Rick Flag Sr. will be the head of Argus in the DCU. Of course, in Creature Commandos, he's not, at least not yet.
Yes.
How do you think he goes from where he is now as a character to leading Argus?
Amanda Waller gets sent to fucking prison for almost starting World War III. I had this theory, spoilers for Creature Commandos, but I mean, it's being insinuated that Cersei is lying about being clairvoyant in the show, or it's like sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy of like when she sent Amanda, and she's telling the truth, and she sent Waller to stop Alana. Now it seems like Now it seems like, you know, because trying to stop her, it's going to start the events, like self-fulfilling prophecy. So, and I imagine at the end of the show, like Rick Flag is like going to be seen as like a hero by like stopping all this, and um he's gonna be, and Amanda Waller's like, okay, cool, you sent this team that was essentially Task Force X, but not into another, you know, I miss Lenny. I hope she's okay. Um, into another
She'll be back.
country, and almost, despite we're in the middle of like peace talks right now,
Hmm.
you almost started a war, possibly World War III. Yeah, you're getting sent to prison, and then Rick Flag being seen as a hero. Okay, cool, you're going to be the head of Argus now. So that's because I don't know if James Gunn said this specifically, but um I believe it was heavily insinuated that Waller was going to be a prison show and was going to
I mean,
be
the
the
artwork
first. Yeah, the
does.
artwork showed that. Like but obviously the artwork doesn't totally mean everything, but like that's what was insinuated. So, and it was going to be the show right after Superman. So I assume that, and that, because but due to the writer's strike, it like didn't happen, so it got delayed. And we heard about it, James Gunn said it's not quite in the place we want it to be. So yeah, this was the image. So we assumed that Waller was going to take place in prison, and I imagine it's like going to be like Oz, but in the DC universe, which
Yeah.
sounds fucking awesome, because that Oz, from what I've heard, is a great show.
Hmm.
So I imagine something like that, and so that's where, like, with everything that's happened, whatever Cersei's plan is, what can't talk. Um, whether it was planting, whether it was bullshitting or not bullshitting, whether it was bullshitting, being like, okay, yeah, I'm totally clairvoyant, guys. I'm totally clairvoyant. Here's a fucking thing of apocalyptic future. Here, go do that for me. And then, or it's self-fulfilling prophecy, where it's like, okay, I'm actually telling the truth. Please stop this. But by doing so, they ignite it. But obviously, Rick Flag Sr. is going to come in and save the day, whatever the plan is. So we have that. So then, and then the U.S. government's going to be like, yeah, Amanda Waller, you've done too much fucked up shit. Send her to the brig. And yeah, um, yeah. I hope it's like we get like kind of like Shawshank Redemption, Green Mile, kind of that type of,
Hmm.
that type of like really good quality from Waller. Yeah, as I said, Oz is another good one. What's another really good, like, or maybe like Orange is the New Black or something, maybe less
Yeah,
comedy. Um but I
that's
just
a good
think that
one.
was the only prison show I could think of. Um but yeah, something like that, and I think we're going to be getting like that's I'm pretty sure that's how it's going to turn out. I mean, I could be wrong, but I mean, now with him confirming, even though I think he mentioned it before, now with him confirming that, like, yeah, he's going to be the director of Argus, where the fuck is Amanda Waller going to go? Into into a hole in the ground where she's going to be forgotten until she like breaks out and like makes checkmate or whatever. Whatever the hell it's going to be. But I know Argus, I forget what came first, actually. I don't know if it was Argus or checkmate, because I know one came out of the other. I think like checkmate closed down and they started Argus, or Argus closed down and they started checkmate.
I think
And my
Checkmate
hope
is a
is,
spin-off of Argus, but
I
anyway,
think
yeah,
that,
go
yeah,
ahead.
I think that's what it was. And then, because I know Maxwell Lord he's
Hmm.
the Black King, so like they could definitely bring him into that too, with him being played by Sean Gunn. Um, so I hope that that's the case. And my little extra tidbit is, I hope with this now Waller being sent to prison, me, I know he's like supposed to be like a morally gray character, but like he's not going to be as fucked up as Amanda Waller. We know that. Like, yeah, he might be, having Superman in handcuffs, all that shit, but like I don't think he's like, Amanda Waller's a villain. I think Rick Flag is going to be more like anti-hero kind of vibes. So whatever they decide to do with him, I don't think he's going to be as fucked up as Waller. And with that, I think he's going to close off any task force stuff,
Hmm.
or it's going to be more of a less controlling creature commandos, whatever they decide. My hope is that with the next season of Creature Commandos, it's not going to be like Task Force M. Either it's going to be like a small Black Ops offset where they're like doing their own thing. It's not like a threat of like electrocution or death or anything like that. They're actually going to like just do good things because they want to. I don't know. Like whatever they do decide to do, I hope for Shade. That's what I hope for. Just like in the comics, I hope that we get Shade, the Bride, and Frankenstein maybe kind of like tolerate each other and start Shade together with Nina Mazursky and maybe an updated GI Robot, maybe Weasel, but then we can get like characters like Vincent Velcoro or the werewolf character. I think Warren Griffiths is like the werewolf character. Maybe like get an Invisible Man in there somewhere. I think like that would be really cool, like more like the comics. And I'm not just saying that like, oh, it has to be like the comics, but like I just really want like a horror Black Ops show. Like that would be awesome. That's what I really wanted with Creature Commandos, and I think that's way more interesting than just like Suicide Squad again, but with monsters. It's like that's cute for a season, but I feel like that the first season is going to be like a transitional period from like what we know of like stuff being kind of canon, like the Suicide Squad being kind of canon, Peacemaker being kind of canon, and then kind of that transitional period to the new and improved DCU and what that lore is going to be and what we're getting there. And I feel like then we're going to get some really like way different stuff with season 2. At least I hope that that's going to be the case. But yeah, I have a strong feeling we're going to get some great stuff, even if it is just Task Force M and we're just going to get similar Suicide Squad. I'm still going to watch the show. It's still a good show. Like I'm happy with what we're getting. I just wish it was more of its own thing. And I've said that from the beginning, like, Suicide Squad again, not great, but I'll take it.
Yeah. I mean, like, my question to you would be, obviously, we know he's in Creature Commandos, and the way things are going in the show so far, every episode does something a little unpredictable. One of you guys said that's one of the good things about the Creature Commandos, that we don't really know exactly what's going to happen in the season finale, and that obviously is exciting to consider. Like, something that we don't expect will go down, and maybe some characters will end up in places you don't expect them to. But speaking of which, knowing that he's gonna be not just in Creature Commandos, but he's also in Superman. We see him there. He's with the military, Rick Flag Sr. Somehow maybe even associated with Ultraman and the Engineer. They're all the same side, and Superman somehow is the bad guy, at least on the surface here. But then by the time we get to Peacemaker, you see this is like the one shot we have gotten from Peacemaker season 2, and like that tiny teaser that we got on Instagram. I think it was from John Cena a little while ago.
Yeah. We're always going to be a team, guys. How long does it take for them to break up as a team?
Yeah, I mean, clearly that, whenever they tease that, you know where the story is going. But the shot here, obviously we know he's not going to have the white hair in the show. He's going to have like the black hair and stuff. He looks, of course, more like Frank Grillo does in real life. So there's certain things that are similar, certain things that are different. But clearly he's got a badge on here. He's in an office space. I don't know who that other character is, the woman in the background. But I think
that might be Sacha Bordeaux, if I had to guess.
Oh, wait, who's she playing again?
No, that's the character. I don't know
who the character.
I forgot who the actress was.
Oh, right. You're right. We did hear about. Somebody let us know in the chat if you remember who they cast in that role, but I do remember talking about it. But basically the question I'm trying to ask is, do you think Rick Flag Sr., by the time we get to Peacemaker season 2, is already in charge?
Is playing the character. Now, I don't know if that's definitely her, but like if I were to take a guess, it's like
it kind of looks like her.
Blurry, but it like kind of looks like her. So
it kind of looks like that. Yeah. But do you think that by the time we get to Peacemaker season 2 that he is in charge of Argus already, or do you think he's still just working within the system but not quite the leader of the organization yet?
That's a good question. I think he's gonna be like in his place as Argus like director. I think that just seems like it makes it. That's just the vibe I'm getting from Superman, at least. I think it just kind of makes sense. That he's like, okay, yeah, this guy who isn't like as mentally unstable as Amanda Waller, and can actually have kind of a clear head. I feel like it makes sense, and I think he's like into this role. But then we're gonna see that tested because
Mm-hmm.
this man is gonna fucking want vengeance. He's Robert Pattinson. He got nothing on this vengeance. Like he's vengeance. Nah, he's vengeance. You know. So I'm really curious with what he's gonna bring to Peacemaker season 2. I hope we're gonna get like some great John Cena on Frank Grillo action. Don't take that out of context.
I'm sure
But
Caleb will take it out of context. Uh,
like Vigilante, I have a love-hate relationship with because
mhm.
I like the character. He's really funny. He's stupid, but he's also like I like the naivety and all that stuff. But at the same time, it's like he's just not the character. I just wish they like either made an original character or just did a different character. I don't know why they had to fucking drag Vigilante's name through the dirt. Essentially, like don't worry, I like him. I think Freddie Sherman was a very good actor, and I think I like what they're doing here. It's just, I just wish it was again. I obviously everything doesn't have to be comic book accurate, but it's like
Yeah.
that's like so far gone from the character. It's like why even make him the character in the first place?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, like yeah, as I said, he's not Amanda Waller. He's not going to be a villain. James Gunn said he's going to be he's not morally bankrupt. He's just morally compromised in some cases. Like he's not
Mhm.
going to be like big blue boy scout like Superman, but he's not going to be fucking like the Wall. So I think he's going to be like kind of anti-hero vibes, leaning towards hero vibes. But like he's like, especially when like he finds out that Peacemaker fucking killed his son. Yeah, that's
Mhm.
that's gonna
It's personal.
that's gonna
It's. I
bring out
mean.
some shit.
Oh yeah. It's. I mean, and I can't wait to see Joel Kinnaman back in flashback sequences or otherwise, because we know he's gonna be in the show. They've tried to hide it, but it's they've done a poor job.
Hmm.
um, but no, it looks exciting. I'm interested in seeing again where the character goes. Certainly seems like he's not gonna be a one and done, but also like he's not gonna just have these small roles here and there. It seems like Frank Grillo's here to be around for a long while.
Good.
He's gonna
After
be around for a
after the
while.
shit fucks down the
Um,
street, fucking
Now look,
fucked him over with
he's not like the
crossbows.
best actor in the world or anything like that. So I mean, it's not. I don't
How
look at it as.
dare you? So no, just kidding. Obviously he's not fucking Daniel Day Lewis,
I
but
know, but
like
I'm saying. So I'm saying like it doesn't. It's like I understood that they wanted to have Amanda Waller be like the Nick Fury-esque character of the DCEU that connected all the dots, and because it's Viola Davis and stuff, and you're getting somebody iconic. Frank Grillo is not the same profile actor, but at the same time, I think he
but he
is
understands the
perfect.
assignment.
He's perfect. Exactly. He understands the assignment. And Caleb saying the Peacemaker season 2 soundtrack will be amazing. Manos Time saying the thing I'm looking to the most is the season 2 intro. We all are. Are we
Yeah.
gonna get the? Do you really want to taste it? I think James Gunn said they're doing something different. So what is that song? We shall see. Easy things. Vigilante is hot. LOL. I don't know if he or she or they are serious or if they're being sarcastic.
I
Caleb
think
saying
Freddie Stromer's pretty attractive. He's a pretty attractive dude.
he is, and then Caleb saying I don't mind it because I don't care for Vigilante in the comics. The show version is so good. My Dream in Orbit saying the
That's
wall
fair.
is
I
unreasonable.
mean,
White
I
flag
can
and
kind of see
no
that because
reason good.
Vigilante is essentially just a DC ripoff of the Punisher. That's
Yeah.
literally it. That's literally the character. Well,
Hmm.
at least the Adrian Chase version, the Greg Saunders version, the Golden
Yeah.
Age version is very different. So, but
Right.
that's beside the case.
Yep. Well, speaking of, do you want to taste it? We shall see where Frank Grillo ends up, like with Rick Flag Senior. Whether he's gonna be in charge of Argus by the time we get to Peacemaker season 2. Let us know in the comments what you think about that. Now, before we do finish up, I think Lex was in the chat earlier, and she had a couple of little fan castings, and I know we're gonna be doing some fan casting later this week.
Hmm.
Lobo related, and then potentially some other ones as well. Keep on tuned
Yeah, we're
in.
gonna fan cast Lobo, even though he's already cast. Just kidding.
Yeah, well, it's related to Lobo, but not Lobo, obviously,
Yeah,
because we know Jason
I know.
Momoa is.
We're just kidding.
Um, but Lex was saying earlier in the chat, like the DC Wonder Woman could it be Lily James? What do you think? I mean, after
I think
that
she needs to
her
bulk up,
portrayal
but I
of
think that
Pamela
would be.
Jones,
I think
not
that
Pamela
that
Jones,
could
Pamela
be.
Anderson.
I think that could be
Yeah.
good. It's just like because I know like DCEU was like kind of like let's do things like innovative, but like kind of makes sense. Like having, have like Wonder Woman played by a Middle Eastern actress, because it's like kind of close to that point, or like Aquaman, he's like a Polynesian like type character. So like, okay, that like is kind of interesting mix up. Lily James, I think, could do it. It just, I don't think she's done a ton of action that has warranted like
No, definitely
me
not.
imagining that. But like, she's a great actress. Like, I was like, from what I saw of Pam and Tommy, I was like, wow, she's like, she disappeared into that fucking role, most definitely. I did like Lily James as Pamela Anderson. I don't know about that, but wow. So I think could she do it? Probably. I think there are better choices out there. Like, I think, Lily James could probably do like, I would imagine, like, if I were to imagine Lily James as anybody, I could see her more as like Black Canary or something like that,
That's
or
actually not a
like
bad
that
pick.
kind of
Yeah.
vibe.
Yep.
I could see her doing that, or maybe like even like a villain like Veronica Cale. That
Yeah.
could be really interesting. But I don't know. I Wonder Woman, could she do it? Yes, but I think there are much better choices out there than Lily James. Like, if she was like cast tomorrow, I'd be like, okay, fine, let's let her cook. But I think there are way better casting choices out there than Lily James's Wonder Woman. Like, I think Adria Arjona is much better. I know tons of people have mentioned like other actresses for the role. I remember there was one that was like this, like, kind of, I don't know if she was a bodybuilder, but she like did like a cosplay of Wonder Woman, and they're like, "Oh, we want you as the DCU Wonder Woman."
I
She'd
mean,
be like,
but can
"That
she
would be a
act?
dream come true." I forget who that was, but I know that what kind of went viral a couple days ago. So that could be like interesting. I saw her. I'm like, oh, I think it was like Jessica something or something. Jessica, I
Yeah.
don't remember.
Good point
But
by Ron, though. I do agree with you that she is a much better actress than a lot of those other options. Like, so if
I
you go
do
with
think so. But it's
that,
just like sometimes, okay, just let's say like, oh yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis is a better actor than Jason Momoa. Does that mean Daniel Day-Lewis should be Lobo?
no, but
No.
it's I'm
So
just
it's
saying
like,
like she fits the description, like physically, looks wise, and sure she hasn't done a lot of action, whether it's as Black Canary or Wonder Woman. But she's a great actress. She can probably look. I know Zack Snyder cast Gal Gadot not necessarily because she was the best actress for the role, but because she could pull off the physicality of the role, and she was a good enough actress that they thought that she can kind of like fill out the role over time. And I thought she did admirably well for the most part. The second movie, the script was not very good, so she could only do so much with that. But maybe we go the other direction. You get a great actress, and then you do. I mean, you'll have your stunt doubles and stuff. It's not like Lily James has to do all of her stunts herself. But when you look at her here, I mean, for example, I mean, I could buy it. I don't know. I agree with you though. Adria Arjona might be a closer fit if you're going with like that Greek, Mediterranean, like that
yeah, like that's
mythos
kind of the
level.
vibe I want, like the
Yeah,
Mediterranean kind of vibe.
just like the origin of Themyscira and how you go about it. But hey, I mean, this was one of two things that Lex suggested, so I wanted to get into the idea of Maya
No,
Hawke potentially playing Lana.
no, no, no. I like
Are
Maya
you
Hawke.
are you more the Maya Hawke or the idea of Alana Lane? What's
I don't
what's
mind
what
Lana
bothers you
Lang.
more?
Maya Hawke is no. I don't think she would fit for that role. I imagine Lana Lang to be one of two types of characters, however they
Yeah.
decide to go about it. Lana Lang is supposed to be like kind of girl next door vibes. I don't think Maya Hawke
Mm.
fits that. She's more like, again, she can do a wide range of acting. Yes, I'm aware of that. But she more so plays like don't fuck with me kind of characters, and I don't think Lana Lang is like that. I mean, you could probably make that the character,
I'm just
or
saying, like, you
Maya
go
Hawke
against the
could,
type and you challenge her to, take on something that she hasn't
or
done before.
like it's either girl next door, or they can like go for like tough farmer girl, and even then, I think that might be too much for Maya Hawke. But she could probably make it work. But like, again, there's other actresses that I think could do the role better than Maya Hawke. And I don't think they're going to bring in Lana Lang at any point anytime soon. So that's just, yeah.
Yeah. Um, I mean, like you said, I think it's more likely that we're not going to get a Lana Lane for a while. So,
Yeah.
but Maya Hawke is a great actress. Again, could do a great job. Yeah, Caleb's just got the jokes today. Well, as he usually does. Adam Sandler in the DCU would be hilarious. I mean, he could just play Happy Gilmore. And then Chris is back to the Aquafina's Wonder Woman argument. Don't get John started.
I'm gonna ban you, motherfucker. I'm gonna abuse my powers and just fucking ban your ass if you fucking say that shit again. So.
Yeah, well, look, there's always with casting.
Honestly, Adam Sandler as Hugo Strange is a better casting choice than Maya Hawke as Lana Lang and Lily James as Wonder Woman. Not gonna lie, no holds barred without a hint of irony. I'm just gonna say that right now.
By the way, Aubrey Plaza, anywhere in the DCU, I would take that. I would take her in any role.
Well, I mean, she's Lady Death right now, or Rio, or whoever the fuck her character is in Agatha all along.
By the way, condolences to Aubrey Plaza. I think her husband recently passed, like way too early, gone too soon.
Yes.
So hopefully, thoughts and prayers for her and for her loved ones in this time. But I would love to. I mean, she's fantastic, and yes, she's already got a pretty significant role over at Marvel. But
her as Wonder.
Maybe not. Maybe I could buy her more as a Black Canary potentially.
I could see her as Zatanna. I think she could be a good
Zatanna would be perfect.
I know that's kind of feeding into the Agatha thing because she plays a magic character there, but still, it works.
I mean, I know Zatanna is like James Gunn has kind of mentioned it offhandedly, so that Zatanna is going to be a bit of a priority for DC. Maybe there's already a project underway that we don't know or are aware of, so potentially Aubrey Plaza could take that on. But yes. Ron, we did mention that we heard about it. Our condolences to Aubrey Plaza, her family, and hopefully in this time of need they're finding some time and solace to do what they need to do to mourn the loss, which is it's certainly significant. So hopefully once she comes out the other side and she can resume her career, her work. She's got a lot of projects already on her books. We'd love to see her in DC, of course. She's already over at Marvel. Of course, we've also got some more new names in the chat. Rad Art and Comics saying Just as Dark, let's go. Lily Collins as Zatanna, Ron suggesting. Could work. Could work.
I could see it, but she's not the best actress ever, and Emily in Paris has permanently put a bad taste in my mouth in regards to Lily Collins, so
Yep. By the way, Caleb saying he was being serious about his suggestion.
Honestly,
Adam Sandler.
Okay, here's the thing with Adam Sandler. Like, when he can do drama, he does drama better than comedy at this point. Like, straight up. Like, I feel like with good direction, he could probably do it. Like, I want like a better actor, obviously, but like honestly, I can see Adam Sandler as Hugo Strange. Like, I'm not even like joking in regard to with Caleb, I'm being serious. Like, I think he could do it. Like, with good writing and good direction, I think he could do it.
After all the actors who have joined up with the comic book genre, I don't know, man. I think Adam Sandler is doing well for himself over at Netflix.
Somebody recommend.
Oh, that would be perfect. I would love that.
Oh my god, I can't wait for. I would say I can't wait for Happy Gilmore, but like, honestly, like, Happy Gilmore 2, ridiculous, unneeded, but like, honestly, and you know what? He's worked with the Riddler before, so like, Paul Dano played a giant spider in Spaceman. So yeah, like, honestly, Adam Sandler, Condiment King, Hugo Strange, joking, kidding, whatever it is, serious. I could see it.
Yeah. Speaking of which, Enterprising adding another cast in there. Michelle Yeoh as Lady Shiva. Michelle Yeoh as anything. I'm fine with that.
Adcock? What?
I think he meant to say Millie Alcock, but yeah.
Woof. Wrong way to misspell it. Michelle Yeoh as Lady Shiva. Yeah, I could do it. I think she might be a little bit too old now, but I think she could make it work.
Yeah.
I would say Ming-Na Wen would be would be a really good Lady Shiva as well.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, yeah, I mean the whole idea of I think it's Moji suggesting that maybe they should cast a 6 foot tall.
I mean, we did talk about Elizabeth Debicki way back when, even though James Gunn squashed that rumor. So
yeah, but I mean, look, like honestly, I don't think Zack Snyder was very far off. Like Gal Gadot is like 5'10". Like she's pretty close. When you put her in heels, she's 6 feet tall. Like it's or the boots that she wore
wedges,
for Wonder Woman. Yeah, the wedges. she was 6 feet tall. I mean, so it's been done before. I don't. So it's not impossible. They certainly could find somebody to do it if they really wanted to go in that direction. I don't think height matters as much because in the movie nobody's ever going to be measuring with a stick how tall a character is. Tom Cruise plays characters where he's comes across taller than he is. Like almost the whole time in Night and Day when he's playing alongside Cameron Diaz. There's a lot of scenes where he's pretty much shown as to be the same height as Cameron Diaz. I'm pretty sure Cameron Diaz is taller than Tom Cruise. So there's examples of that across cinema, across history, where
because he has a
height isn't as much
gigantic
of a
Napoleon
factor.
complex.
It's more of a matter of the frame and how do you fit the role. Like the reason why Gal Gadot was cast in Wonder Woman is because she could do the physicality aspect of it well. Just the way she moved and the expressions on her face. And she didn't have a ton of lines in the movie BVS, but when it came time to carry her own film in Wonder Woman, they put Chris Pine next to her so that he could kind of help out and carry the weight of a lot of those longer talking sequences. They had a great cast of actors surrounding her and gave her just enough to do. And then I think she was improving as an actor. She improved tremendously over the years as an actress. I mean, we're gonna get to see her in the Cinderella movie. So I just it's unfortunate. Snow White. Sorry, Snow White. She's the wicked. I'm confusing all of my characters today. Ron saying Dan and John as the Wonder Twins. No, David Zaslav already canceled that project.
Yeah.
Danny DeVito as Batmite or Mr. Misfit. I don't know if Danny DeVito wants to be doing a comic book movie franchise at this point in his career. He already said I spent my fair share of time in the makeup chair for the Penguin. I don't think he's looking to do.
Honestly, he could just cut get a dollar store fucking cowl and put a t-shirt a Batman t-shirt on him. That would work perfectly. Honestly, I want to see Danny DeVito as Batmite now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and then Brad Art and Comics saying that James Gunn probably won't focus on the Trinity just yet, in his opinion. Or you know what? I do agree with you that seems to be the case, but you also got to remember Superman and Batman both have movies in this Chapter 1, Part 1, Gods and Monsters, and Paradise Lost is a prequel to a Wonder Woman series. So yes, we may not see them together early on, but James Gunn has already said that he would love to see Batman and Superman together. He cannot wait for us to see that. And when you add Wonder Woman into the picture, you've got your proto Justice League. I do believe we're gonna get there. It's just not gonna be like the second movie in the cinematic universe is gonna be that like what they did in the DCEU. I think they're gonna take a longer time to bring those characters together. But look, they're the Trinity. We need to see them eventually, and the sooner the better, honestly, because the average audience, they still recognize those three characters more than a lot of these other characters. So for the super fans, we want to explore these other characters, and they are, but you have to bring the big hitters in at some point. So hopefully soon. We don't know yet when the Batman movie is going to happen, and Andy Muschietti might be doing another movie before he even directs the Batman Brave and the Bold. But we do know that Superman is coming out in only a few months from now, so that's going to get the ball rolling. Charlize Theron as Cheetah or Veronica Cale enterprising would be great. I would love that. I think she would do a great job. But she's also working over at Marvel now. She's probably going to be part of the
because she was in a post-credit scene.
Yeah.
You know who else was in a fucking post-credit scene for a Marvel movie? Mahershala Ali as Blade. Yeah. And look how that fucking turned out. So,
I mean, also, what's the name of the actor from Ted Lasso? He was Hercules in the post-credit for Thor: Love and Thunder. I don't know if that's ever going to happen. But hey, you know what? With that, I think we're going to bring today's show to a close. We've been live with you guys for 2.5 hours.
I need to sleep.
Holy cow. But we'll be back tomorrow. We have to do some fan casting. We'll get into the news of the day. So check back in. We've got lots to get into. As always, if you haven't already, please hit that like button because we do appreciate it. It helps get this video in front of more people, brings more people into the community that we have got. Drop your comments down below if you're not watching us live. And if you joined us in the live chat, as all of you guys watching us right now, thank you so much for giving us your comments, being part of the conversation. Hit subscribe if you are new to the party because we are here 5 days a week, so we will bring you the latest DC news, the latest news from the world of Hollywood movies and TV shows. And of course, if you hit the notification bell, then you know when we go live or have a new video go up, like we will be doing. So tomorrow, the day after, we'll be live and we'll have the Oh So Curious show. Tomorrow's DCU Daily, we'll do a little bit of the news. Then on Wednesday, we have Liz coming back in. We'll do the Oh So Curious show. We'll bring in some other news from Hollywood. We'll look ahead to the new Den of Thieves movie, Gerard Butler back at it again. And then on Thursday we'll have more DCU Daily plus MCU Weekly. We're gonna get into all the fallout from the Golden Globes with Sebastian Stan, Anthony Mackie, Harrison Ford. There's all kinds of news there. And then on Friday we'll wrap up the week with another episode of DCU Daily. So stick around here with us. We've got a wonderful week ahead, as we always do. John is gonna be here. I will be here. Liz will be here. We'll see if we can bring you even more other surprises beyond that. But hey, thanks for stopping by. We'll see you tomorrow on another episode of DCU Daily.
Bat nipples.